Okay, YouTube is going, Twitch is going. We should be good. We should be good. The phone is connected now as well. It doesn't say a duration yet, but that just means it's going. That just means it's going. It's going. It's going. It's going. I think it's going. Oh, September is an emote. Lol. I used an emote in my Twitch title, I guess. I'm not sure. Yeah, it says it's going, but it's not started going yet. Like the preview has not started going yet. Let me refresh. It is going on YouTube. The preview is going on YouTube. So I'm gonna do this the way I did this last time. Hopefully we're live for a while today. I'm not sure. Obviously I can go offline at any moment. Mostly because I sometimes have to. Things come up and then I just kind of pop off. But hopefully I'm live for a while today. We're gonna get into some Godot stuff later. I tried this out last time where basically what I did was I reacted to a video and an article. I haven't made the article into a video. I don't think I will make the article into a video just because like I also want to avoid saying the word like a lot, and I also want to avoid stuttering a lot, so I might be speaking a lot slower because I've noticed while editing myself that I speak a lot faster and then I repeat myself a ton. So for example, I'm trying really hard. For example, what I just did there, where I interject myself with a comment, and then I will say something like, for example, and then take a pause, and then say, for example, again. And that is just how it ends up going, and I feel like I repeat myself too much. I also use the word like a lot, right? I use the word like, right, like this, so like, I use those words a lot. I think nobody points it out when you're speaking because you're just kind of speaking in a, you are just kind of speaking. I just did it right there. I repeated myself. See, I'm gonna catch myself a lot here because I've been editing myself for a while now and I make these like talking mistakes a ton, and I think a good way to improve would be to not make those talking mistakes. Also not use words like I think, I feel like, and all that. Like those like that fluff at the start of a sentence can just be skipped. This is going to be tough. It's going to be tough. It's going to take some time for me to get used to it, but I hope we can get there. Also, I'm realizing I haven't popped out my YouTube chat, so we're going to do that right now. We're going to pop out the YouTube chat so that I can see the YouTube chat when I look at the other monitor. I want to be able to see the YouTube chat. Cool, cool, cool. I don't know why Twitch chat on my PC just doesn't like working, but hopefully we'll get to a point where it does just work. But I do have my phone next to me in case any Twitch chat stuff happens. I sound like a robot when I'm talking. Is this what enunciating is? Like, is this what proper enunciating is? I feel like I'm reading off a teleprompter because I'm trying to be slow, and I don't usually talk slow. Anyways, I feel hot now. I want to turn the AC up. The control isn't here. Where's the freaking control for the air conditioning? Why do I feel hot suddenly? Hold on. I can just do it from my phone. Phone has a control. Alright, that should be good. Okay, let's get into this. I have a ton of videos. I'm really nervous slash excited slash I want to know about this because like this Google AI thing that happened that I do not know anything about. I've just heard that's kind of game changing, which not gonna lie makes me a little scared and a little nervous, but also I feel like it's probably more smoke and mirrors than it is anything, you know, it's than it is anything substantial. I feel like it's probably more smoke and mirrors than anything. We also have these videos from last time, and then I do like getting through some articles. I only got through one article last time. I do want to read a ton. Like, I like reading game dev news. I feel like this is a good platform to go through game dev news together as well. And it's usually helpful. Like, I want to pick out helpful stuff. I don't want to pick out stuff that's just sort of fluff news. That's what the YouTube is for. Anyways, let's see. Let's just start with the Google thing.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Mike here at Game from Scratch. Today we're going to be looking
Oh, no, we're not at 2x speed. He just speaks fast.
at a new project that is making the rounds right now. This is Game Engine, which, by the way, the fact that this potentially has never been used as a name is mind-blowing. It's brilliant. So it's Game Gen, and this is a research project mostly from Google, also Tel Aviv, but you'll notice from this marker here, he was working at Google Research, work done well at Google Research for this fellow there. So basically this is a Google project, and what they're doing is recreating Doom, 1993 Doom, using a neural network. And a modified version of Stable Diffusion for the rendering side of things. Here you can see people actually playing it in action, and this is super impressive. So you're going to see it's actually learned some gameplay aspects, so like doors open when you enter them. It's even smart enough to know that you need a key at some point. At the same time, a lot of it is done very specifically. It's mimicking the original game it learned. It doesn't really have any concept of like hit scanning or inventory or state or any of those things. It can actually only remember the last few seconds. So if I go ahead and blow that barrel up, walk around the corner, come back to that barrel would probably be back again. So this is not a replacement for game engines and is not going to be for a very long time. But what they've done is basically they used a bot with a special version of Doom. I will cover the version that they use specifically in just a few moments. But they basically had it play just thousands upon thousands upon thousands of games of Doom, and it's taken frames, 900 million frames of graphical data and logic there, and encoded that into their neural network. So they then used that to render the frame. They use, based off of what you've done recently, they extrapolate.
So I'm sure he's gonna go through it. What I think this is probably doing, and he talked about it, but it's the way it's probably working is that it generates the basic movement control through AI, right? And then it's just using sort of image gen data, and its model only consists of Doom images or Doom frames to just generate the next frame of what it thinks the next frame is going to be. And then I guess it's also generating some interactions, but it's not generating like state interactions. It's not generating a full game, but it is generating basic gameplay. Let's see if what I'm theorizing is correct, at least.
Based off your your input what's going to come next, and they kind of recreate the process of creating Doom. So you can play it, and it feels a lot like Doom. At the same time, it is running at over 20 frames per second as they're doing it, which is a kind of neat. Some more details about how they've done it specifically there. We got a couple more gameplay clips. You're going to notice all of the clips are very short, though. So generally, they don't. Again, it's that lack of permanence that really.
That's probably the smoke and mirrors part, right? The fact that they're showing only short amounts of gameplay probably means that where they cut the video is probably where the gameplay starts breaking up. But they got their clips, so they can use that smoke and mirror. They can kind of use that smoke and mirror.
Kind of trips it up. So this is not Doom.
Also, they don't ever backtrack, which is a good point that he made. They don't ever backtrack because it probably doesn't remember what it just generated before. So if you keep going forward, like this would probably be great for like an endless runner, right? You could have an endless runner with infinite content, which is a theory that I've had for a really long time because of the way that, especially, and I'm gonna go into a hyper casual games rant, but essentially, I don't know if y'all know these let's just say hyper casual games. Just gameplay. I know it's ruining. I know it's ruining the games industry. Hyper casual games gameplay.
Top 15 best hyper.
Right, stuff like this, right? The stuff you see with like Family Guy clips underneath. Man running 3D Family Guy clips. How about that? No, that's not it. I just want some. I mean, even that is going to be a good. I'm trying to get this. Stuff like this. You've probably seen stuff like this a ton, and there's usually a Family Guy clip underneath. Sometimes there's not a family. Oh wow, it's loud. Sometimes there's not a Family Guy clip underneath, but the gameplay is pretty basic, right? Somebody can whip this up pretty fast. Something like Game Engine could probably be utilized to make something like this pretty significantly. And this is a theory I've had for a really long time, is the fact that because these games are so simplified, and the whole purpose of hyper casual games is make it really simplified, have it be really saturated colors, but don't put in a lot of detail, because the reason hyper casual games even exist is to usually just be billboards. So like the colors are really saturated. Like this looks like a Mr. Beast thumbnail, and the colors are super saturated because they are trying to attract like really small children on an iPad that their parents have given them. And so usually what will happen is, you mean the part where they fall on purpose, like in those ads to drive engage? No, I'm not even talking about the ads. I'm talking about the actual games. The games are usually created to have just be really, really brightly colored, saturated to attract. And yes, the rage bait engagement ad farming is a way of them to get players. But once they have the players, the kind of player they're looking for is usually a really young audience, because they want to fill this kind of game up with a lot of ads. So probably the people that are gonna be the most excited about something like this. Oh, it went to the other screen. Hold on. Why is it going to the other screen? Something like Google's game engine, which is what we're talking about. The people that are probably going to be the most excited about something like this are going to be the people that are already creating those hyper casual games. I can go into why it's called hyper casual, but yeah, because it can just endlessly generate something, right? We're not seeing them actually backtrack in the Doom demo because of the fact that it probably doesn't remember what's back there. And it doesn't need to remember what's back there. For a game like Doom, it probably does, but for a hyper casual game or any kind of like endless runner where the goal is to be really, really simple and just drive enough engagement so that you can lead to the next ad, which is usually what the mobile market is. They just kind of want you to get to the next ad and then also make it really difficult for you to close the ad, which is a whole different thing we're not going to get into. It's not Doom running on literal neurons. It is Doom running on literal neurons is really cool though. But it is Doom running on a neural network essentially. But it's not exactly Doom. It's more like they took the frames of Doom and then the neural network is trying to extrapolate like what the next frame is going to be, and it has basic mechanics of you can walk around, but it's generally just generating things. It's not exactly like it's not actually the game of Doom. It's just sort of generating whatever it thinks the next thing should be, the next frame should be in the output.
Is Doom levels being shown, but again, you come back and that guy is going to be back again. And also notice it doesn't really understand. So you can see the glitching of the graphics right here, right now. So this is not per se Doom, but it's sort of a playable video of Doom that is beyond that. It actually kind of understands spatially how the levels are working, has a basic concept of how things like inventory and health work. It is a very, very impressive accomplishment for sure. But this isn't going to be the future of game development, at least not our near future. It's one of those things you really want to take into mind when you're reading about this. So you got a bit of a detail of how they broke it down. So again, they have got these agents that they used for collecting all of the training data. That again, the training data included that 900 million frames captured, a very low resolution, like 160 by 140 or something like that.
Doom would be a great game to do this with because of the low resolution, right? And again, hyper casuals would be great to do this with because of the low resolution. I do think that this is going to affect hyper casual devs, but those might be the only devs that it affects, which honestly, like being fully candid, I don't think hyper casual should exist anyway. Especially because they don't exist as games. They're mostly around to be billboards for advertising on mobile. I don't think they should exist. The fact that they do makes the mobile market terrible, makes video games in general terrible. I know people make a lot of money. I know people need jobs, and a good way to get started in game dev is get into like a hyper casual studio, usually because they're always hiring, but they have terrible working conditions and they don't pay you well. And it's a bad time all around, usually just driven by greed and capitalism. And so if they go away because of something like this, I'm okay with it. I feel like they won't go away. They would just get, you know, they would get more, like it would be a deluge of hyper casuals up until a point where gamers actually stop playing them because they become so utterly garbage because they are just being AI generated at that point.
Pixel resolution, but all of those frames are then fed in, and then they kind of extrapolate based
So I
off
feel like
of
my
what is the
microphone is
priority frames
peaking
and what they've done,
and
what's
it shouldn't
coming
be.
next, and
Should
then
be
they
further away from
render
it.
the simulation accordingly. They do the rendering for a modified, repurposed version of Stable Diffusion's model for doing it, and then also they've got some more logic on top of it for specifically dealing with it. So you can see, for example, here it gathers. No, that's about how
I
traditional
might do a
games work.
deep dive. Like I might
You can see
go
it's
and
neural
read
network
these actual
modeling things.
papers
It's
and might
comparing
try
itself
to
to
do a
what they've
deep dive
really
on
brought
this.
is the fidelity. Other projects working on things like Game Jam, Game Jan. There's what they're getting for visual fidelity based off the other projects that are working on similar. Here is how the interactive world simulation is set up, way beyond what I want to get into in this particular thing. But again, I want you to realize this isn't a game with game logic like you would have in like Unreal or Unity or whatever. This is quite literally kind of cosplaying a game, if that makes sense. So Some of the models here, there are some trickery done in terms of keeping things together. So you see it was breaking up over time right there. And then here they've used noise augmentation to keep from having the
Bad games before Gen AI that were still the good kind of bad games versus games nowadays. Uh, define what you mean by bad games there. Uh, yeah, define what you mean by bad games there. I feel like bad games have always been a thing. And Gen AI is just kind of making that worse. But it hasn't really creeped in that much, to be fair. Like right now, Gen AI is usually used. It is used for art stuff a lot, but you don't really see it that much because it's not at the level yet where it can actually replace someone, especially for game dev. For like other art things, like there is already a deluge of there's already a deluge of like children's books and art books and art paintings and obviously stuff like NFTs, because again, those are still images, right? There is a vast amount of still image AI generation stuff that's just flooding the markets that people hate already. Like anytime you see a painting with a what do you call it? With a finger, like an extra finger, anytime you see a painting with an extra finger, you can pretty much just like roll your eyes at it, right? But it hasn't gotten to the point where game assets are being produced that much in Gen AI. There are companies and people trying to do it, but they're not like to the level where they can do it in a convincing manner. Like you can still tell. There are games that, especially if you look at like the Web3 space, where their entire goal is to create something that's convincing enough for people to buy whatever shitty coin that they are shilling. They get away with it to a point where they do get some unsuspecting people to buy some shitty coin that they are shilling. But that's about it, as much as it's infiltrated so far. I'm sure we will see more of it. We just haven't seen a lot of it yet. At least in my experience so far, I haven't seen too much usage of Gen AI. There are obviously companies that are doing it though. Uh, bad but fun versus bad. Bad but fun bad versus just bad. Yeah, I mean, poorly made fun games versus unfun made for profit games, I guess is what I would call it. What are games if not 60 still images per second? I mean, that's what video is too. But usually there's a reason you watch slash play something, and it's beyond just the visual experience. Like there's usually something behind it. I just recently watched Inside Out 2, and I wouldn't have watched it if the story wasn't great, right? Although I feel like Inside Out 2 is not as good as the first one. At least that was my opinion. There's usually something like you want a human touch behind it, whether it's story or gameplay or aesthetic or whatever. You want some kind of feeling to be behind it to consume it, or you want it to drive some kind of feeling in you, like a competitive feeling or something, to engage with it, right? You don't just engage with something just because it's there. At least I don't. I know children do. Children can just sit in front of, what is it called? Cocoa Melon? Children can just sit in front of Cocoa Melon for a really long time and just be entertained. Probably because, like, the development hasn't happened there yet. And I think it's really predatory, to be honest. Like I feel like the hyper casual market specifically is very predatory because it like goes, I'm literally part of this group of like game companies, and a lot of the game companies there are hyper casual devs. So I see them whining so much about Google implementing so many safety features to make sure children don't get access to their apps when their entire existence is figuring out how to circumvent those safety issues so that their games can go into the hands of children. And they don't even understand that concept because for them, the profit, obviously, the profit comes first.
Quality degradation over time. Some more detail about how they, kept things working, kept the latency down to make it so you could actually work in real time. Detail.
It felt like someone was knocking at my door. I'm not sure. Or someone's moving something upstairs. There could be an earthquake happening. If an earthquake happens and I have to run, get clips. But also, I will run if an earthquake starts. But there's like vibrations. I feel like if an earthquake was happening, like the fan would start moving, obviously, because it's on a pendulum. Like other things would be moving, right? There's nothing moving here, but I hear vibrations from outside. So probably somebody's just moving something upstairs.
About how they train. So again, they took a bunch of downscaled frames at 160 by 120 resolution. Again, I believe it was 900 million of them. So over the last previous frames, here's what they did, and then it extrapolates, okay, well, the next frame is going to be this. And then there's what it should have been. So again, the previous training frames, and then it does this. Previous training frames, and then it does this. So you can see it actually really did a good job of simulating exactly what Doom would have done. But again, it is basically fakery at this point in time. So again, overall, they generated 900 million frames of training data. A bit more about how things were all put together, but there are definitely some areas that you want to be aware of in terms of the capability. So you get to the bottom of this one, they have a breakdown of some of the limitations there. They run into definitely memory model. They do some trickery here for it specifically. So, for example, the rendered view, the model learns to infer the player's location, and from the ammo and health tallies, the model might infer whether the player has already been through an area and defeated the enemies there. That said, it's easy to create simulations where the context length is not enough. Continuing to increase the context size with our existing architecture yields only marginal benefits. That is basically the object persistence I've been talking about in the past. That is one of the flaws of this system. Second important limitations are the remaining differences between the agent's behavior and those of human players. For example, our agent, even at the end of training, still does not explore all of the game locations and interactions, leading to erroneous behaviors in those cases. So what they're saying there basically is the agent they used to train and learn the game never made it through the entire level. So the parts where
So they just got bad gamers to train bad AI, right? They got someone who wasn't a completionist to get the frames to completely recreate Doom. They didn't get all the frames of Doom, man. They gotta get like a speedrunner in there. Now, I feel like a speedrunner would ruin the experiment, but they gotta get someone who actually plays Doom to play through Doom for their Gen AI, right?
those agents didn't make it to, it never learned how to play the game in those areas. So those areas were going to be either non-existent or wonky when they get there. The only
What we're learning is Google AI researchers are bad at playing Doom.
way around that basically is more training data, or you get humans to actually play through it, but that would be costly. Future work, so they
Oh,
demonstrated that work
okay, it
Doom would
wasn't
be interested to test other
it
games.
wasn't actual humans playing it.
Software. We note that nothing in our technique is doomed.
I'm so confused.
Reward function for the RL agents. We plan on addressing this in future work. While Game Engine manages to maintain game state accurately, it isn't perfect.
Honestly, they should get game journalists to train Gen AI so that the AI is just bad, right? So it doesn't create good games. It can never be used because it was trained through game journalist gameplay data. But I think what they did was they programmed something to go through the game and get the data rather than getting actual human data, which probably would take a lot longer. And the thing that they programmed wasn't good enough to go through the entire game because they didn't technically need to go through the entire game to sort of do this proof of concept.
Discussion above. You even see it in some of the videos. So you can see one where the ammo count goes like 32, 18, 32, 32, 18, 32, 18. Because it doesn't really understand what ammo is. it just knows to draw it on screen. So I don't know if there's even an understanding of every time it sees. It might be smart enough to be encoded that it sees a muzzle flash drawing, take the ammo count down by 1, but it doesn't really know what a bullet is, what ammo is. It's faking it. Just one of the most important things to really understand there. Key difference to it in a real game engine. So that's definitely one of the areas. Also, you got limitations for memory and the actual machines that it's underlying running on. So it would be interesting to experiment with further optimization techniques to get it to run at higher frame rates and on consumer hardware. And then they get into where they think that this could go. And I think that they're a little optimistic in terms of where this could be ultimately used.
I mean, they have to sell themselves, so obviously.
Games are programmed by humans. Game Engine is proof of concept for one part.
Training on video, I think would probably like he specified it earlier. They got frames that were, I think it was like 120 by something, like really low resolution frames. A video off of YouTube probably at that resolution has more artifacting than just natively recoding Doom to run on that resolution and then just getting your frames. I mean, obviously they're gonna figure out how to make it better, optimize it better, and also make it faster. Because right now it's running at 20 plus frames. It could very easily run at 50 plus frames as well.
Of a new paradigm where games are weights of a neural model, not lines of code. Game Engine shows that an architecture and model weights exist such that a neural model can effectively run a complex game interactively on existing hardware. While many important questions remain, we are hopeful that this paradigm could have important benefits. For example, development process for video games under this new paradigm might be less costly and more accessible, whereby games could be developed and edited via textual descriptions or example images. A small part of this vision, namely creating modifications or novel behaviors for existing games, might be achievable in the shorter term. I don't see that, to be honest, because this won't integrate into existing games.
For example, we might be able to convert a set of frames into a new playable level or create a new character just based on example images without having to author code. Other advantages of this new paradigm include strong guarantees on frame rates and memory footprints. We have not experimented with these. So I don't think, see, it only can generate from what it knows, right? So I guess aesthetically, if they wanted to put a new character in, they could probably show it images of the new character, and it could probably put a new character in the level and have it move around, right? But the interactions, like, it probably cannot just put in, let's say you want to put in a rocket launcher, right? It probably doesn't know what a rocket launcher is to put that mechanic in the game, so it couldn't put a new character holding a rocket launcher doing parkour jumps if it hasn't been shown those things being done. So really it could only recreate what it knows, which is pretty much the thing with all AI. Like, as much as people like to say, oh my god, AI is going to generate new things and change the world, usually it just recreates what it knows, right? What you tell it is what it can recreate. So again, something like Doom, which already exists, could probably be recreated with AI, but with something like this with Gen AI. But I don't think this could go to the point where it creates something completely new. You could make it recreate something that already exists with some variations, and those variations would need to be really simple variations. So they're really optimistic. I went into this video because I only saw sort of Twitter clips of this happening and I didn't know what was going on. I went into this video being a little less optimistic because, you know, it's like, it's targeted in a way where it's like, oh my god, game developers are no more because they just have this thing that can just make a game now. But that's not what it is, so I think I'm okay with it. I don't think I want to finish this video, to be honest. It's just gonna go on about it. Let's see what this is. So, wasn't it like AI generated pixel graphics are just fake pixels where pixels have the wrong... Yeah, AI generated pixel art is really bad, because pixel art is very precise and it uses a lot of mixels. Mixels are when pixels in a pixel art image are of different variable sizes. So usually to have good pixel art, you want to have all the pixels in your art piece be the same size and it looks good to the eyes. But AI is really bad at that because it's kind of just approximating where pixels can go. AI gen pixel art. Like I can just point it out here. AI art versus artist. So like I mean this is really bad, but something that's maybe not as bad. Like I don't know if this is AI generated, to be honest. It probably is because there are some like there's some inconsistencies with the shading there, but a human could also do that stuff like this, right? If you sort of look at the image, it feels like an okay image because again, as a still image, it's great. If this was animated, this would look terrible. The pixel sizing is like wrong. The sort of the different kind of techniques used, especially like I'm looking at this specific spot right here. Let me see if I can open it separately. I can't really zoom in. Oh, like see how bad it looks once zoomed in. A normal pixel art image wouldn't be this bad. Like there would obviously be artifacting and it is artifacting, but it wouldn't be this bad when zooming in because like just like it doesn't know if this is a tree or if this is the end of a roof, right? You could, like it feels like it's the end of a roof, but it could also be approximating from the tree. You'd think it should be easy to force Gen AI to use some sort of grid, but what do I know? See, it's either you can constrain it, but it still hallucinates. Usually that's what researchers are researching on to kind of stop its hallucinations and constrain it to a degree. Like these are pretty okay. Again, can't tell. Pixel avatar generator works. So I don't know if they're like they're okay. They would pass as still images. Like if you wanted still images, they would pass. But if you look at them individually, like things are off, right? The pixels are off. There's like the inconsistencies with the lines there. Like somebody who does pixel art or somebody even who's played a lot of like pixel based games would probably look at this in a game and go like I could probably do better, right? That person, their eyes are weird. Like they all kind of individually they all look weird, but if you're just like looking at them at a glance, it's passing, which is enough for a lot of people. Why didn't my raid? Oh, there it is. Oh, it didn't end. Yeah, I haven't done that in a really long time. I haven't been raided in a while, but thank you so much for the raid, Jitspo. How you doing? What were you doing? Let me check out what you were doing. You must have to sing the rest of it yourself. It's like hello, son. I don't know the full song. It's been a while. Oh, I almost accidentally raided you back. The Twitch shoutout system. That's how it works, right? Jitspo. Does that work? I think your mic is a bit hot. My mic is a bit hot. I think I'm just like close to it. Is it better if I move further away? I need to turn it down a bit, to be honest. Let me see. Input. It is a Blue Yeti. Is this better? Like it sounds like it's clipped. Yeah, it does clip a bit. That's the thing. I don't like it when it clips, and I try to make it so uh it doesn't clip. It's got so many filters on it. I need to buy a new microphone, to be honest. This microphone at this point is pretty old. I think this should be better. It shouldn't be. Obviously, when I get loud, it might still clip. I'm hoping it doesn't clip that much. I get excited and I get close to it and it starts peaking. I don't like it when it peaks either. But thank you so much for the raid. What were you doing? I'm gonna give you a follow. I didn't mean to open it over here. My alarm clock just went off. You game dev. That's all it's telling me. I can't see what you were doing, to be honest. It's just saying game dev. Oh, retro FPS game dev. Ooh, what you working on? What you doing? Also 7 hours. Wow. Damn. Must be tired. Can set up a limiter on OBS to help with that. I used to have a limiter. I feel like when you have a limiter and it peaks, it it sounds like it sounds worse versus if it just like if there's just like one peak like randomly, you can kind of move on. I can try a limiter, obviously. If it's still peaking, I can let me put a limiter on it real quick. Limiter, what just happened there? Uh, am I still live? My OBS just went like not responding. Okay, it is responding now. Okay, there's a limiter on it now. Is does that sound better? With the limiter? I'll keep the limiter on if it sounds better. I guess y'all would probably know better. We are going through a bunch of stuff. I just went through the whole Doom being recreated by Gen AI thing, but it's not actually Doom being recreated by Gen AI. We were just talking about how, especially when it comes to like still images, it seems like AI can produce like passable stuff, but it's not really passable. Like if you have a little bit of pixel art knowledge, you can kind of look at this and go like, okay, something seems off. But if you have, if you're just looking at it at a glance, it's kind of passing. I just don't think it would pass in a video game. Like it could pass in a video game in the sense that, okay, you kind of see the portrait of the characters once. You kind of see the image once and then you move on. But even if you try to animate it, do anything with it, this would not work right now. I know that people are probably researching how to provide limits to it and all that. I'm more optimistic after seeing this video than I was before that it's not at the point. But it's a scary thing. It's a scary thing, to be fair. It's very scary. And I went into the whole Doom stuff, like the whole Doom stuff. We also went into a discussion about hyper casual games. We've been talking about a lot. The thing is, you have to turn the mic down and gain. Then a limiter. Okay, hold on. Um, is it probably sounds worse now, right? Thank you for okay, so let me do 100 on this and then turn the microphone down over here in OBS, and then now it doesn't hit the limiter at all. It doesn't get there. Is that better? Or is it peaking a lot worse now? Are you using Linux? I like that interface. Yeah, this is Linux Mint. This is Mint. I want to eventually go to freaking. Nah, you have to turn down the OS in the OS and then add game. Okay, so turn it down in the OS. I'm gonna keep it at like 80 in the OS. I'll keep it at 80 in the OS. I have the limiter in OBS right now. Does it have a compressor filter? It does not. Hold on. Okay, so let's see. Compressor is added. Compressor is now added. We have a limiter, we have a compressor, and then you're saying add gain. Arch, by the way, I am scared of installing Arch, to be honest. Okay, and now there's a gain, but the gain is not anything. I'm gonna do like two gain, like 2 decibels of gain. I'm not listening to any of this, so I'm just going off of vibes right now. I'm dependent on you guys telling me that it all sounds nice. Let me just do a quick let me do a quick monitor. Hello, hello. Do I sound robotic? Hello? I I don't know. I can't tell if this is good or bad, to be honest. It just sounds weird because I hear myself twice. Uh, Yeah, I might want to just like go look up a YouTube video on how to have good settings. Whatever you're doing the test, it gets quieter. Oh, whenever I'm doing the test, it gets quieter. Is it fine now? Like right at this moment. I don't want to kind of screw with it too much. I do understand that having audio be like not great is not great as a streaming experience. Especially I like to like edit these videos afterward. I think it just like, so you can see the input level, right? At points it goes all the way up. I think those are the points where it probably pops, where the microphone probably pops. So either I need to clean my microphone, I need to get a pop filter, or I just need a new microphone. I don't know. I turned down the OS volume just a bit. It's a lot better than when we started. Okay, I'll turn it down to a 77. How about that? And then I'll try to be really loud just so you can hear the pops. I think I think we should be fine. I think we should be fine. Yeah. So I'll just catch you guys up. Basically, we found out about this whole Google generative AI thing that regenerated Doom. But what it's essentially doing is it looks at the gameplay of Doom and then it just figures out what the next frame is going to be. So, for example, if you're playing that game of Doom and you turn around, whatever you see behind you is not what you saw when you actually walked into the room, which means it's not actually really generating the game. It's kind of just like putting stuff there that it thinks should be there. So I think games like Doom are probably not gonna be something that can be generated with Gen AI, but something like this really, really terrible hyper casual thing, probably could be. And so probably the people that are most excited about stuff like generated AI games are people that are doing hyper casual games, which are usually the most scummiest people. No offense if you're a hyper casual developer, but usually hyper casual games, they're made really simple and sort of saturated colors because all they really want is they want a child on their iPad to download the game, and then they fill the game with a lot of ads that are really hard to close, and that's how they kind of make money. So the gameplay is kind of secondary. I also punched my microphone there by accident, so I hope that didn't hurt anybody's ears. But I feel like something like this is probably going to be what Gen AI game dev probably heads towards, which I'm kind of okay with. What it probably does is it creates a deluge of more hyper casual games, which we already have so many hyper casual games that at that point, I don't know, the mobile market probably just collapses. Thankfully, I'm not in the mobile market, so we should be fine. Somebody asked about stuff I'm reading. I have a lot of stuff open here. We're just kind of going through stuff. I'm probably not gonna go through everything. I have some articles. I like going through. So what I'm doing essentially is I try to dedicate a little bit of the start of my stream, kind of like the just chatting section, to be about just going through stuff that's happening in the world of games. That's what we're doing right now. And then afterwards, we can get into some code. I like doing code on stream. I feel like it's a really bad viewing experience because it's just sort of, an IDE. I'm learning Godot, by the way. I have never done anything in Godot, and I'm trying to recreate Conway's Game of Life in Godot and then add some more flair to it. I want to create Conway's game of I'm calling it Conway's Game of Predators and Prey because I want to sort of I'll first recreate Conway's Game of Life, and then I'll add like a prey block and a predator block and add more rules to that. But I've never done anything in Godot, so hopefully I can do this to teach myself Godot and then do more things in Godot. I am having a really fun time with Godot though. It's definitely a different world from Unity, from where I'm from. In my professional development world, I mostly still use Unity, but I'm trying to shift over to Godot and other engines just because, you know, Unity bad. We know this. Unity bad. Made by code stolen, made by AI. What are you saying? What are you saying, Blood? It's pretty easy. So far it's been easy to pick up. There are some things that are kind of confusing. For example, signals. Like, I know signals as a concept are pretty cool, but but it's hard to wrap my head around signals. The thing I'm having the most trouble with, and we'll probably get into it once I get into the coding section of the stream. The thing I'm having trouble with, I don't know, you probably know this, right? So there's something in programming, object-oriented programming, called an observer pattern, where if something happens in one object, you kind of want another object to be aware of something happening in this object. So for example, you have like a score, and then you have enemies. So when enemies die, enemies can signal that I'm dead, and the score can get that signal and be like, okay, an enemy just died, so let me add 1 to the score. And that's what an observer pattern is. So with Godot, what I'm learning is you can have signals that can kind of emit something to a node or an object, but only if it's within a scene. So the problem I'm running into currently is that I have sort of these squares that like represent a grid, and then I have a grid manager that's kind of managing the entire grid. But these are two different scenes. So the square is a scene on its own, and then the grid manager is like a scene on its own. So if something happens inside the square scene, let's say it's a cell that gets activated or deactivated, I want it to send a signal to the other scene. I'm trying to still figure out how to send those signals between scenes, is what I'm trying to get to. I hope I explained that in a way where people can understand. I don't know, but yeah, we'll get to Godot, and I'll probably figure it out today. But that's my biggest struggle with Godot currently. Obviously, I had so many struggles. I've done my entire Godot stuff on stream, by the way, so I'll probably be turning it into sort of like a making my first game in Godot video at some point. But even like just trying to get a square to draw on screen was like figuring that out was a bit difficult at first. Obviously, when I initially started Unity, it was really difficult to do that in Unity as well at first. But I'm slowly getting there, and the fact that I'm already coming from an engine and I have ideas of like how to do certain systems and certain things, it's a lot easier to transition over versus, you know, if I knew nothing and I was just starting over. Easiest way to deal with that is have a global auto load script that you can just call. Under the project settings, there's a global tab under that auto load. I am going to make a note of that. Hold on. Where's my note? Where's my dev notes? I'm just gonna create a new note called dev notes here and just go like, oh, we say global auto notes, global auto load script. All right, just gonna take a note of that so that when I'm actually inside Godot, I remember to look into that. And then what do you say? It's in project settings. It's in project settings auto load. Project settings globals. Then you can just put a script in there and can call it global.gd when you want. But isn't that like using a global variable? Like I don't want to use a global variable. I kind of want to do an observer pattern. But if it's not possible, then I'll end up using a global variable. But we'll see. We'll see. I guess we will see. Then you can just be like global.enemy underscore died or whatever, and it'll tell the global script, and then whatever's subscribed to the global script can know that. It's more of a singleton. Okay, so if it just keeps track of all your variables and it never goes away. right? We'll look into this. We can look into this together. It's like an always loaded class that's just there. Yeah, that's what a singleton is. Fair. Fair. I there's probably no one way of doing it, right? There's probably different ways that different people do it, but that's a good thing to know. I have noted that down and we will get into it. I'm not sure what else we should go into, but there's this, which I'm excited about. Strafon, which is the people, I think they made this, I'm not sure. Well, technically an always loaded scene, you can do more than just script stuff. Fair. The state of games publishing, the era of generalist indie publisher is over. And then we also had How to Survive Until 2025 in the games industry, which I feel like is gonna be not as relevant to me because these are all founders of like big studios that have done big things, and we are tiny. We are small. Amexia is lurking. I shouldn't probably call that out, but thanks for the lurks. Oh, I accidentally closed that. I didn't mean to close it. Hold on. Recently closed, not Windows, tabs. History, recently closed tabs. There we go. But I have to go get... Yes, please. You have been streaming for 7 hours. You are probably starving. It's probably pretty late for you. I'm just gonna assume you are in the United States, and it's probably... If you're in PST, it's midnight, which you should go to bed. If you're in EST, I don't know what time it is for you. I just know PST is like 12 hours from me, so it's like 12:11 here. It's midnight 11 for you. So easy to keep it. Oh, damn. Yeah, go eat and then go sleep. But thank you for the lurk and thank you so much for the raid. I never introduced myself. I am Shio. I am an indie game developer professionally, and then I'm trying to do more indie game stuff on Twitch as well. And we're live on YouTube too. I do make YouTube videos, and I'm just trying to document my indie game stuff. Mainly just trying to document myself learning and growing as an indie game developer. So if you like that kind of stuff, then follow me. Also, we do challenges sometimes because I do like achievement hunting and really challenging video games. So if you see me playing something like Getting Over It randomly someday, don't be alarmed. I like torturing myself because it leads to growth. Globals and singleton get such a bad rep. I find that strictly following so-called patterns is frequently harmful to progress. That's fair. I mean, I released this game recently, and I talked about this before as well. I should be really wary when I'm just typing stuff out into the bar because it shows my entire search history and like my entire history when I do that. I should be wary in general. I should probably hide my screen when I do that. If it runs, this is a game that I released recently. It's just like a really small pixel platformer. But in order to get this thing out at one point, the whole premise of this game is the fact that you kind of crash landed on this planet. You're this cute little Martian. I'm gonna mute this tab because there's like music and stuff playing. You crash landed on this planet. You're this cute little Martian, and then you have to collect some gems to get back, get your ship repaired and get back to wherever you were headed, which is probably back home. But let me just go finish out the level so I can show you guys. It's really small. It takes like 2 seconds to beat. Godot 3. Oh no, this is Unity. This was made in Unity. I'm learning Godot. I have just started learning Godot. I've been a Unity dev for a really long time, but I am just starting to learn Godot. I am currently making... We're gonna get to like the coding section of the stream at some point, but I am currently trying to recreate Conway's Game of Life in Godot and then add some things to it just to teach myself Godot. And then we'll do some other things in Godot. Wow, I suck at this now. I used to be so good at this. It is supposed to be challenging. I did want this platformer to feel sort of like Celeste and Super Meat Boy sort of together. And you could see the inspirations. Also, the butt sprite is something I drew. just like pointing it out. Frick. I'm able to do this really quickly normally. This is streamer brain. I'm trying to just make a point, please. Thank you. Okay. So that gem that you get, and then now it's here, so now you have to go get another gem. This whole gem system, this is two global Boolean variables, because a bunch of places need to know if like what the gem state is, including like loading the ending of the game, right? A bunch of places need to know what the state of the gems is in the game. So the best way to do that fast and just get the game out was to just make it a global variable, and I did that, and I'm okay with it because the game runs fine and nobody's gonna know. Apart from me telling everyone that every time global variables come up in a stream. So I'm okay with using whatever is used to make sure that the game ends up, doing what the game needs to do. But at the same time, like I like utilizing a technique or a pattern or something if it just means that I can learn more about that pattern, right? That's just usually my approach. But obviously, if the work needs to be if the job needs to be done, and the only way to get it done is to use something that people look down on, which I don't really look down on anything, then that's okay. That's perfectly okay. Yeah, I've never used Godot 3. I should probably go back and use Godot 3 at some point. What do we wanna... What's the next thing? I might only just do... How long have I been live? I've only been live an hour. We could do another hour. I kinda wanna go through this article, and then I kinda wanna go through this video. And everything else can kinda wait, although the things are pretty... These are some pretty nice things. But I kind of want to know about this article. If it's boring, then obviously we can skip. But I feel like this is going to be good information. This games industry dot biz. It's how Stray Fawn survived 8 years as an indie with no investors or publishers. As an indie with no investors or publishers, I feel like that is good information to have. It's co-founder Philomena Schwab, I'm assuming. Also Philomela Skunk, I think. The British announcer. That's what I thought of when I read that. Anyways, co-founder Philomena Schwab shares how community support and crowdfunding helped build the studio. It's by Sophie McAvoy. I don't know how to say that. Sophie McAvoy. Right, let's get into it. Speaking at DEF CON, Stray Fawn co-founder Philomena Schwab shared how the Zurich-based studio has survived for the past 8 years, from refusing to partner with a publisher to the importance of community support when developing a game. Schwab emphasized that Stray Fawn prides itself on being an independent studio with no publisher or external investors. Even when its first game, Genetics Survival, titled Niche, Genetic Survival title... Niche? What? I don't understand this sentence. Genetic Survival is the genre, and the title is Niche. Started getting publisher interest after crowdfunding success. The studio continued to decline offers. This was due to previous experience from making a mobile game which had a publisher that didn't go so well. So I thought the next time a game flops, I want to be fully responsible for that game flopping, she explained. It's not up to somebody else to flop my game. This will be on me, so we declined the offers that we had. Stray Fawn still declined publisher offers, even with the recent success of The Wandering Village, which is a really cool game that I haven't played yet, but I've seen so much of it. Despite being harder to say no. I think we had 50 or so publishers reaching out, Schwab recalled. Some we were very tempted to work with, as it was such a risky project, but we decided we didn't want to do that. Not just because we wanted to keep all the revenue, but also because we didn't want to have any external deadlines, and we didn't want to compromise on the game's quality. See, this is something we struggle with as well. In the games that we're currently making as an indie studio, and myself as just an individual. But usually as a studio, you get approached by publishing opportunities a lot more than you do as an individual. Although I do see a lot of individuals. Oh, ad break. Oh no, ads. I don't know how many people are probably in ads. I'm not sure. I'll wait for the ads to go away. Or I can just say it and y'all can just see it on YouTube. But we as I should link my YouTube. No, never mind. I don't know who's in ads and who isn't. Probably people with Prime are not in ads. There's only 30 seconds left, so I'm just kind of wiping, for 30 seconds. Are the ads gone? They're still not gone. There's 20 seconds. I do want to say, for those that are not in ads right now, for those that are in ads, this would probably be for them. But it is September. Just letting y'all know, it is September, and there's a good way, a cheaper way in September to get rid of ads. Just saying. Anyways, the ads are gone. Great. So as an indie studio, usually you get approached by publishers a lot. And because we're like a really small and a really new, like a young studio, we are really overwhelmed publisher publisher engagements. Usually the horror stories you hear about publishers is the fact that, for example, you take a publisher like Devolver Digital. Any game that Devolver Digital usually puts out is deemed as a Devolver Digital game, right? So usually the studio or the people behind the games kind of get sidelined, and then they might have more releases afterwards, but you kind of don't get to hear about them because you only kind of hear about the one game that was probably a Devolver Digital game, unless they end up being like a studio that just releases games with Devolver Digital. That is something that we think about a lot when we're thinking about publisher engagements, because we don't want the identity of the game to be tied to the publisher. We would want either the identity of the game to just be, just the identity of the game, or essentially build an audience for our own studio that is more hyped when our studio put something out rather than be hyped for the publisher. Also, the fact that like you don't want to just tie your entire game's earnings, potential, IP to a publisher as well, because there's so many I don't think this happens that often anymore, but there used to be a lot of publisher deals. I guess it still happens with like bigger publishers like EA or something, where once you create something with that publisher, they kind of own the rights to it. So you could create something like, I don't know, Lampy's Lamp Time for EA. And then EA can just go like, okay, we don't want to work with you anymore, but we still own the rights to Lampy's Lamp Time. So Lampy's Lamp Time 2 could be made by a different developer under EA, and then you have no say in what happens to Lampy and their lamp friends. And that's just something we don't usually want to happen. That's usually my biggest concerns with publishers. Obviously, there's great publishers out there and publishers that want more indie games to come out. So it's kind of a mix and balance. But so far, the publishing environment feels very predatory to us, at least. At the same time, a lot of like the publisher indie market is also dried up unless you already have an audience that's interested in your game. For example, something like Wandering Village, where they probably saw, like a lot of publishers probably saw that Wandering Village was really popping off, whether it's on like a Kickstarter or something, or just it's a viral game. I do remember Wandering Village being pretty viral when it first was announced. So a lot of publishers probably saw that and probably wanted to get behind that because they can see that it's going to be a certain level of successful and they could probably elevate that. I don't know where I was going with this point, but at the same time, what was I gonna say? I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. basically there's good publishers, there's bad publishers. I was gonna say that the publishing environment is really dry these days for indies, apart from like a few examples like these. Usually when we're approaching publishers that we want to approach as well, a lot of the publishers these days are mostly looking for sort of that live service hit that everybody wants. And this is like big publishers, small publishers, especially the last year. Either there's no publishing or all the publishers are kind of just looking for the next live service game that they can publish and probably reap the profits from for a while. So that's just my 2 cents on publishers. Let's read the rest of the article. I've rambled enough. I think we had 50 or so publishers reaching out, Schwab recalled. Some were very tempted to work with, as it was such a risky project, but we decided we didn't want to do that. Not just because we wanted to keep all the revenue, but because we didn't want to have any external deadlines, and we didn't want to compromise on the game's quality. This aligned with Stray Fawn's ethos, in that the team wanted to be owned by the developers without a third party. It was never our intention to build a studio and sell it in the next 5 to 10 years, she said. What we wanted to do is build a place where we can enjoy creating games together and make a living, which is what most people, I think most of us in the indies, I don't want to speak for other people, but at least this reigns true for, you know, my studio, which is just like a bunch of friends. And it reigns true for me as well. Like, I just want to make games that I want to make and be able to pay my bills with it. That's the dream. Like, I don't want to make a giant game startup and sell it. And since founding the studio, the way in which developers make a living is by earning the same salary. Also, if someone works for the developer for 3 years, they get the same bonus as the founders. I love that. I love how they're set up. Now I want to work for Stray Fawn. The only other factor is if an employee is working part-time or full-time. Everybody makes the same amount. Everyone knows what each other is earning. This is a great way to run a studio, I think. Schwab added, I think this gives everybody a lot of motivation because they directly benefit from all the work they have done. Outside of the inner workings of the studio, Schwab emphasized the significance of community support. The launch of the studio's first game with early access was small, but this skyrocketed at full launch due to its growing community, sharing the game on social media and getting the attention of streamers. It was a very lucky first case scenario, Schwab noted. It's not very often that you make a first game and it's actually successful, but community building was a very big part of the success. Creating this baseline in community support helped in having a growing number of players invested in whatever games the studio released, regardless of the genre. While the 5 games in the studio's portfolio are vastly different from one another, the same can't be said for its publishing side. I think we did something smart because we're signing games that... Wait, they became a publisher? We're signing games that are similar to our last game, she said, referring to The Wandering Village. This has since enabled Stray Fawn to cross-promote the city builders with their latest game and vice versa. My team doesn't want the next game to be the same genre as the last, so the publishing side is going to publish similar games as the ones we recently made. As for why they decided to become a publisher themselves, despite not wanting to work with one, it was a simple decision according to Schwab. We are trying to be the publishers that we would have liked to sign with, she explained. For us, it's still a side thing. We're not really dependent on the revenue from publishing, so if it doesn't work out with the game, we don't want to push too much. We try to contribute, but we don't want to push developers in a certain direction if we feel like they have a completely different vision than us. It's all about a lack of time pressure and not wanting to put... That's fine. I feel like it doesn't tell me how they survived, but mostly what I'm getting at this is, and generally what we're kind of learning in the games industry in general, is that if you have a community, you can kind of be successful, which is why part of the reason why I am on Twitch and YouTube is that people can see me making games, like the games that I'm making, and if eventually go play the games that I put out, and then we can build a strong community through that. That is generally the way to success these days. I think in games in general, like something that's both a good watching experience and a good community experience earns a lot more eyes than something that might just be a really good game, but nobody's talking about it, nobody's doing anything about it, and there's really no community behind it. For example, Concord just came out, absolute disaster. I honestly, like, before Concord was released, and I don't pay attention to a lot of AAA game stuff anyway, so I didn't know anything about Concord before it was released. But even like after it was released, I only heard about it because of it being a total disaster. Like, and I consume a lot of like YouTube, Twitch. I'm in play, like I'm reading gamesindustry.biz, right? Like I consume a lot of stuff about games. I heard nothing about Concord apart from the fact that it was a disaster at launch. And I feel like that's probably partly because there was no community. I almost dropped a bottle of coffee. I almost punched it because it's sitting right there. Uh, that's probably partly because there was no community behind it in the first place. I was like, I watched a video last week about this person who's creating a game, which I should shout them out again. uh it's IO Games, but their YouTube channel is just I/O, right? I/O. Oh, not Google IO. Strata is the game they're making. I/O Strata, this person, right? So the game they're making, which is called Strata, which is probably on itch. I haven't tried it out yet. I only sort of like watched a devlog of theirs. But what they're doing is they're focusing on creating a really nice game that can be speed run. And so they're kind of hoping for building a speed running aspect or speed running community behind their game, which is a great, honestly, speedrunning is a great place to sort of get a community behind your game, and it's something I think a lot of game developers do not think about, because if your game already has that speedrunning community when it comes out, a lot of speedrunners are going to be documenting their speedruns. They're going to be figuring out all the techs that are in your game. They're going to be figuring out all the hidden, they might even point out bugs to you, right? And if they're game breaking bugs, you can patch them out. But also, if it's a bug that's like really fun, for example, like the LBJs in Mario, right? It's something that's really hard to pull off, but if somebody can pull it off, it's really fun to see. And it is technically a bug, but at the same time, it's really fun to see. And if somebody can find something like that about Strata, and it's like it's fun to see someone pull it off, I feel like that right away gets a lot more eyes on your game, because you can see somebody like really skillfully going through it and then go like, oh, that game looks cool, I want to try that game. So yeah, in general, what I got from that article is gotta have a community behind the games, which is go follow Team Gramps, by the way. We're usually on Twitter. I don't shout them out enough, but Team Gramps is the team I work for. I should have a Team Gramps. I should have a Team Gramps or just like follow stuff on the in the chat, and I don't, and I'll probably add that at some point. But that is fair. That is fair. That's a good way to go about it, though. Is release a game, create a community, and then even going into the publishing business is a good approach. I would not probably go into the publishing business ever, just because it sounds intimidating. But yeah, that's what we learned from that article. They survived 8 years just developing their games and just going off of the revenue of their games and making sure, I'm assuming they stayed small, because I feel like this model can only work if you are small. I don't think you can hire like 100 people and be in this model. But also, nobody like, why would you want to hire 100 people? Like, I don't understand the obsession usually of just like growing and growing and growing a company, because usually if you're just sort of focused on growth, at some point you start making decisions that are not conducive to making cool stuff, and they're mostly just conducive to growth, right? I just want to make cool video games. That's all why I'm here, and hoping I can pay the bills while making cool video games and trying to learn how I can do that. Let's watch the Metroid Brainia video.
Over the past few weeks, as I've been diligently scouring the internet, compiling research and assets for the upcoming videos on my channel, I've noticed a word come up a lot. Like, everywhere I look, this word is just all up in my face, wanting to get cozy with me, wanting to love me a little bit. It's basically just everywhere. And that word is Metroid Brainia. Not Vania, Brainia.
Which, to be fair, is a pretty bad name for a genre, and that's what this video is probably talking about. But it is my newest favorite genre. I think it's everybody's newest favorite genre. It's either Metroid Brainias or roguelikes, which is what most of 2024 indie game development has been. It's either Metroid Brainias or it's roguelikes.
I actually first came upon this term in the comment section of one of my own videos. My first video, in fact, which was about Animal Well. In that video, I
Still
mentioned
need to
that I
play
wasn't
Animal
sure how
Well.
I'd actually classify Animal Well because it combined elements from so many different genres. But then a couple kind souls in the comments informed me that there was a new word on the streets. Metroid Brainia. That perfectly encapsulates what the game is doing. It's basically a Metroidvania, but it's one where gathering knowledge, solving puzzles, and unraveling mysteries is the focus, rather than combat and, you know, blasting alien faces off.
I mean, you also want to... Oh, that was loud. Sorry.
This is awesome. But as the past 2 months have gone on, this word has fallen out of my favor, so to speak. Because look, I love Metroid. Like, it's crazy how much I love Metroid. Oh my god, I love it, I just love it! And I know you love Metroid too. We all love Metroid.
Never played a Metroid game. I played Hollow Knight though, and I love Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is probably in my top 10 games of all time, but I haven't played a single Metroid. There's so many games I haven't played that I need to try. Being an adult and trying so many games is so difficult, though. Like, I did a thing at the start of the summer, essentially, is I downloaded 10 games on Steam, and I was like, these are the 10 games I am playing, and I don't download any more games until I beat or 100% these games, depending on the games. Some of the games are games I've already beaten, but I haven't 100%ed, so I just wanted to 100% them. So far, I 100%ed one of them. That one was Vampire Survivors. Vampire Survivors got an update a few weeks ago that added 8 new achievements, so it took away my 100%. And then now I haven't played it in a few weeks since that update. So it's difficult. It's really difficult. I mean, I don't want to be like, oh my god, playing games is so hard. But it's hard to find time, man. It's hard to find time. Also, my mind is always like, I should probably stream it, but then I don't get around to streaming it, so I don't get around to playing it, because if I launch it, I want to stream it, but then I don't want to stream it, and the cycle just continues.
But that doesn't mean that every good idea in gaming is somehow derivative of Metroid. If we're going to name an entire genre of games after Metroid, and to a lesser extent Castlevania, we shouldn't do that unless it actually makes sense to do so. And as we'll see, with a lot of these so-called Metroid Brainias, it doesn't. I love all these games, and I do think we should come up with a new name for the genre they're pioneering, but I think the word we choose should reflect what the games actually are, and the intentions of their developers. In this video, I'm going to explain why I believe Metroid Brainia has become an overused term that misclassifies countless innovative games, a term that seeks only to corrupt our brains and our fucking souls.
Okay.
Quick preamble about where I stand before I start. Animal Well is a Metroid Brainia. Totally, I fully support that term when referring to Animal Well specifically. This is the only Metroid Brainia I've played, personally. I haven't played Rain World or Tunic yet, so I'm not qualified to say, but these
Tunic is really good.
may or may not be Metroidvanias. Now, Outer Wilds, in my opinion, isn't a Metroidvania. Return of the Obra Dinn, definitely not a Metroidvania. And The Witness, not even close to a Metroidvania. In fact, I would go so far as to boldly assert that not only are none of these games Metroidvanias, but it's sort of a disservice to them and their creative legacy to define them as such. I know we've all been having a great time with this word, but old Snulch is here to crash the party right now. Sorry, guys. I guess the best place to start is to analyze the term morphologically. Obviously, it's a combination of 3 units of meaning: Metroid, the brain, and Castlevania. But as we all know, Metroid and Castlevania were already previously combined as Metroidvania, and then the brain came in and slithered its way in there. So to define what a Metroidvania...
It's just a... Look, obviously it's not a great term, as the person pointed it out, but it's a way of classifying newer games in a genre that's already familiar to us. And a lot of these newer games are very similar to those games in other... I guess they're not really, though. Like, if we're truly looking at Outer Wilds and then something like Hollow Knight, I don't think those two games are that similar. But they give you a similar feeling, I guess, in the sense that so how a Metroidvania functions is that your progress depends on items that you acquire, and then you can use those items to do new things. The world is always open to you, but you don't always have access to the full world because you don't have access to these abilities or items, right? And then Metroidvania, the world is still always open to you, and you probably have all the items that are required to go through the world, but you don't have the knowledge to use those items. So what you're acquiring in a Metroidvania is the knowledge to go through those, to traverse the world. So as you go through the world, you get knowledge rather than getting items. But the core sort of gameplay, the way the game progresses is similar in the fact that you do acquire something to proceed. And I think that's why you kinda can categorize them similarly. But honestly, like, even the term Metroidvania feels like a dated term at this point, because, like, the best way to define a Metroidvania is Hollow Knight, in my opinion. I'm just gonna go out and say it. Like, the best way to define Metroidvania is neither Metroid or Castlevania. The best way to define a Metroidvania is Hollow Knight. So do we start calling them Hollow-likes? I don't think so, right? Although Doom-like was a great term until first-person shooter became a term. We do have a genre called Souls-like, but I feel like Souls-like is a very specific thing. I don't know. I want to see what their solution is. I want to see what their solution is. Let me ban this person that just showed up. Doopy doopy doo. If Twitch wants to load, I can probably do it on mobile, right? Right. Let's see what their solution is.
We first have to define a Metroidvania, and then we can insert the brain. Now, I'll grant you, Metroidvania as a term was already a total slop show that wasn't always being used correctly and still isn't. The term originally described a game that was designed based on elements from both the Metroid series, from which Super Metroid is generally the quintessential inspiration, and the Castlevania series, from which Symphony of the Night is generally the prime inspiration. But the whole thing is kind of a kerfuffle because Symphony of the Night itself was heavily inspired by Super Metroid and mooched off of many of its ideas. Just like how in our time, From Software took the core game design of Zelda Breath of the Wild and combined it with their existing Dark Souls franchise to make Elden Ring, Konami took the game design of Super Metroid and merged it with their own Castlevania series to create Symphony of the Night. In that sense, Symphony is actually the original Metroidvania. It's also rad as hell, and if you haven't played it, what are you waiting for? The first thing you do in this game is jump over a drawbridge and immediately slash a wolf's face.
Symphony of the Night is a Game Boy Advance one, right? I do remember playing it. I don't think I ever beat it, though.
Such as the large interconnected world where the player can explore and backtrack through areas in a different order, with a map that literally looks like this, finding upgrades and new abilities and keys to progress through new areas of the world, you know, classic Metroid shit. but it also brought in a few ideas of its own, some of which were elements from previous Castlevania games, such as the enemies, the gothic theme, an RPG-style leveling system, melee weapons like swords and whips, dialogue and
I don't
cutscenes,
think it
and of
was
course
Game
the
Boy
classic
Advance
challenging
because
combat and
that was a 3D render right there.
such as
Hold
the
up.
enemies, the gothic theme.
Unless that's from a different game in the series and he just put it in, but that's or it's a still, you know, it's just like it's a video rendered on Game Boy because Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories did that.
RPG-style leveling system, melee weapons like swords and whips, dialogue and cutscenes, and of course the classic challenging combat and bosses that Castlevania was known for. It blended Castlevania with the Metroid formula, so critics started referring to Symphony of the Night as a Metroidvania. This name stuck,
The term is
and it
that
works
old?
for basically every indie game ever made till this day.
Damn.
But what's funny is, nowadays it doesn't always make sense because a lot of these so-called Metroidvanias that come out are really just inspired by Super Metroid, and most of them don't carry over any of the stuff introduced by Symphony of the Night. They're more like Metroid-likes or Metroid clones. We call them Metroidvanias because the name stuck, but for a lot of them there's not really any Vania in there. Just look at Axiom Verge. This game is a pure love letter to the Metroid franchise. It doesn't have any of the
Axiom Verge is one of the 10 games I downloaded to play. Haven't gotten around to it.
Castlevania influence. Not the gothic horror visuals, the RPG mechanics, melee combat, the castle that flips upside down. Aside from having dialogue, this game is basically just a Metroid-like. It's an homage, basically. Not to Castlevania, just Metroid. So why do we then call it a Metroidvania?
Don't even ask.
It would be more accurate to say that only the Castlevania games like Symphony of the Night, Dawn of Sorrow, and Portrait of Ruin are Metroidvanias, and the only indie games that should be
It was
classified as
PlayStation,
such are those that were directly inspired
not
by
Game
this
Boy.
lineage, such as Blasphemous or Bloodstained. The rest of them are Metroid-likes, but we're in too deep now. We've already started calling everything a Metroidvania, so
This shouldn't be here. Technically, yes, Metroid-like, but Messenger is something completely different. If you haven't played The Messenger, go play The Messenger, because The Messenger, yes, it's a Metroidvania. By the way, this is spoiled in the trailer, so I can say it. The Messenger is a Metroidvania, but not for half the game. The first half of the game is a pure platformer, and then the second half is the Metroidvania, which was like a mind-blowing. Like, The Messenger is a completely different thing on its own right here. Like, The Messenger, you could call it a Metroidvania as well, because there is stuff in The Messenger that you can do from the beginning that you just don't know that you can do. What is going on? Okay, someone just like texted me. Never mind. Yeah, the Messenger shouldn't be here. The Messenger is not is not just a Metroid. Calling I love this game, that's why I'm being so offended. But calling the Messenger just a Metroidvania feels like an insult.
there's no turning back. Basically, that entire history lesson I just rambled on about was kind of pointless, because at the end of the day, this is all just to say that nowadays, we define a Metroidvania simply as any game that's designed like Super Metroid. That's it.
It's more than that, though.
It has that formula
I
of
don't
exploring a
know.
large interconnected world, finding upgrades to access new areas. It's basically a Metroidvania.
I guess
As
that's
I've
what
mentioned, the
it
lore a
is.
bit of a
Yeah.
mess, and its true meaning is still debated. But I do like the way Kotaku defines it in this article when they say it pretty much boils down to non-linear platform games with ability-gated exploration, or, you know, explore until you reach a point that requires a skill you've yet to pick up. I would add to this that a Metroidvania also has to be a 2D side-scroller. 3D games like Metroid Prime generally aren't considered Metroidvanias, but I will admit that that's definitely up for debate. With that established, what's a Metroidbrania? Well, it's a Metroidvania, but with a twist, and this twist is essentially that the game takes emphasis away from combat and moves it to other elements that concern the brain. It still has that Super Metroid foundation, but the focus is on gathering knowledge, solving puzzles, unraveling the game's mysteries, or any combination of these things. Animal Well is the quintessential Metroidbrania because that's exactly what it does. In terms of game design, it's basically a Metroid game. It's a deeply atmospheric side-scrolling adventure, where you start off without any abilities and have to start exploring. As you explore, you start to unveil the map, which is the classic Metroid-style grid map, and you find upgrades along the way that help you progress to the next area. On the surface, just looking at it, it looks like a good old Metroidvania, which is exactly what I thought the game would be before its release. But this game changes the rules a little bit because, like a puzzle or a mystery game, you have to solve puzzles and riddles and think carefully to unveil the game's hidden areas and secrets. This isn't so much a game you beat.
I don't
it's a
want
game you solve
Animal Well
step by
spoiled
step.
for me so much. Stop showing footage from it. Hey, Scapegoat, how you been? You've been at this for a while.
A knowledge-based mystery puzzle game, but it plays like a Metroid game, which is probably why people started jokingly referring to it as a Metroidbrania. At least, that's what I thought. But as it turns out, the word Metroidbrania actually predates Animal Well by at least a couple of years. Even back in 2021, some gamers were already using this word to classify several knowledge-based games, such as Outer Wilds, Return of the Obra Dinn, and The Witness.
I think the first time I heard the term Metroidbrania was with Outer Wilds. I don't think I didn't hear it with like The Witness or Obra Dinn either. Although Obra Dinn was, I feel like, just generally very much under the radar. Oh, cool. Did you have fun? Yeah, I think Obra Dinn was very much under the radar, but Outer Wilds is probably the game that I think popularized the term Metroidvania, although Animal Well is, I think, the game that has now sort of put the term in the mainstream. I still think they should be called Metroidbranias right now, but I want to know what they're proposing. If they come up with something cool, obviously we should all adopt it, but I don't know how far this YouTube video is gonna go.
And I do have a few issues with this. So, and without spoiling shit, because I wouldn't dream of it, this video is going to be spoiler-free, baby. Let's talk about some of these, and hopefully I can explain why I don't think we should call them Metroidbranias. Starting, of course, with the great God King masterpiece itself, Outer Wilds.
Love this game. Need to play it again.
An absolute poundhouse. It's a masterpiece. I can say that without a lick of hesitation. Basically, everyone who plays this game says the same two things. I've never played a game like that before, and that was one of the coolest games I've ever played.
Also, a lot of people say this, that I hope I forgot everything I knew about this game so that I could experience it again. That is literally one of the things that that's something I say as well. Pretty much anyone that has played this game that I know always, like, that is a thing that they will utter at some point, which is, I wish I could forget it and play it all over again for the first time, because it's so good. And also the way it introduces concepts and knowledge, it's insane. Like, people should study Outer Wilds and how to teach in like education classes. That's how good it is.
Spoil it, but basically it's a sci-fi exploration game focused on solving an ancient mystery in a solar
Outer
system,
Wilds.
and it takes a ridiculously unique approach to that concept.
This game
It separates itself from other mystery games because the player's knowledge is given an insane amount of power in the game design. If you know the game's secrets, you can do things that new players simply could never do because they lack the knowledge. I do agree with the sentiment that for games that do this sort of thing, they need a new name. But Metroidbrania is not the term I would use. Let's start with the obvious fact that unlike Animal Well, which was clearly inspired by Metroid, Outer Wilds isn't a Metroidvania at all. There are some similarities with Metroid Prime, like being set in outer space and reading ancient alien text with the scan visor, but those are sci-fi tropes and they don't make this a Metroidvania. In terms of game design, the developers cite a photography side quest in The Wind Waker as one of their main inspirations.
And it's cool, because you see a photo and you're like, wow, I wonder what this weird statue is, and he will like tell you where he took the photo, and so if you're curious, you can go...
There's so many games I do need to play.
Outer Wilds in some ways.
All these kinds of videos realize that there's so many games I need to play. I might decide a day where I stream, where I just stream a video game, right? So that I could actually get through games. I used to stream video games a lot. I just don't often. I also don't have time to stream that often anymore either. Like, I'm just getting back to streaming consistently again, and I'm trying to just maintain the consistent schedule again. I feel like I'm more consistent now, but who knows? We will find out. I think something's gonna happen in life that's just gonna be like, okay, I can't stream for another month. But I want to... It's also like I stream in the daytimes now, and I used to stream at nighttime. It feels easier to play a game and stream during the nighttime than it is during the daytime. It feels weird playing a game during the daytime, at least for me. But I do want to... I should figure out a way to stream games at some point because there's so many games. There's so many games. Also, when I used to stream games before, I used to be really worried about who was watching and like what game's gonna get me more viewers or whatever. I don't really care about that stuff now, so I could kind of just play anything. And I need to get to that point where I can play anything on stream. The other thing is just like play a game on my own and make a video about it, which kind of satisfies that itch for content creation up here, and also satisfies the itch of, you know, the guilt that you get when you're playing a game, when your mind is telling you, oh my god, you're wasting time, you could be doing something. So yeah, streaming a game or like making a video about a game kind of solves that issue, because then you're like, okay, I'm kind of being productive even though I'm playing a video game. Yeah.
Zelda in general seems to have been the guiding force. If anything, the game design is most similar to Zelda Breath of the Wild. In both games, you're confined to a starting tutorial area, the Great Plateau in Zelda, Timberhearth in Outer Wilds, where you learn the basic controls and mechanics of the game before receiving some item that sets you loose into the
How
world.
are your streams
There,
going,
you can go
Scapegoat?
wherever you want, just like the original Legend of Zelda, driven by your own curiosity to explore. But beyond that, the team carved out an entirely new and unique way to design their game, through a rigorous creative process, without ever standing on the shoulders of Metroid or Castlevania. The most notable difference is that the game isn't a side-scroller. As I mentioned, it is up for debate whether a game in this genre needs to be a side-scroller. Perhaps it isn't a requirement, but it definitely is a bit odd calling Outer Wilds a Metroidvania, because, well, this is a Metroidvania. This is Outer Wilds.
Even different.
But okay, let's put that aside. You can still argue that if the game has the other elements of a Metroid game, like an interconnected world with backtracking, a map where you can mark areas you need to revisit, upgrades and power-ups that help you get further, a strong atmosphere, and encouraging exploration, it could still be called a Metroidvania, and then by extension a Metroidbrania. But this isn't what Outer Wilds does. It simply isn't designed like a Metroidvania. There are no
Nothing special as expected, but I will get there someday. I'm still way shy about making mistakes. I make so many mistakes during game dev streams, though. I spent an hour not knowing how to draw a square on a screen in Godot. You'll be fine. It's fine. It's okay. Nobody cares. I used there. It's okay. Yeah.
upgrades whatsoever to the character or to the ship. By extension of this, the game doesn't gate off any area of its world to you. From the very start, you can get in your ship and fly literally wherever you want without any obstacles or obstructions.
I do understand, though, it is, you can get into your head about that, because it does happen to me as well, where I get into my head of, oh my god, people are judging me. But also, sometimes you just gotta think about the people judging you and realize their lives must suck if they're watching you stream making a game and then judging your code, because, you know, it's just somebody learning and doing stuff.
Well, actually, there is one obstruction to certain rooms, which is knowledge. If you don't know certain things, there are rooms and areas that you can't quite access until you gain that knowledge.
Yeah, nobody cares, but also if somebody is judging you, nobody cares about them either. Like, I don't care if somebody's coming in and judging my game dev or my code. I get, like, on the YouTube videos, I have a few I get cute comments here and there on the YouTube videos about how bad the game is that I'm talking about, or I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know, whatever, dude. I don't care. You probably should go get a hug or something.
This is where the strongest rebuttal to what I'm saying comes in. That pieces of knowledge are the upgrades of this game, and that makes it a Metroidvania. Just like how in Metroid you can find an area...
I've never seen Jurassic Park, I'm sorry.
In Outer Wilds you can find a new area, but not be able to access it until you
See, when it comes to anything that's not video games, I've... my knowledge about the thing goes like... If you talk to me about video games, I was like, I can talk forever. If it's anything that's not video games, usually it's just like... doesn't know what's going on.
knowledge. In this way, getting these huge information bombs in Outer Wilds is the one-to-one equivalent of getting a new upgrade like the grapple hook in Super Metroid. I can totally see where this view is coming from, but on the other hand, I consider it a forced parallel and kind of a stretch. Finding upgrades that you can use to access a new area, or learning a bunch of stuff and then studying that information on a corkboard until you find out how to access a new area, well, those are just two completely different ways of progressing through a game. They're not the same and are only comparable if we really force them to fit into an umbrella term. Think about it, every game has progression, but that doesn't mean that they all trace back to Metroid and are somehow Metroidvania-esque. If I really wanted to, I could say that Fortnite is a Metroidvania. When you start a match, it has non-linear exploration. You can go in whichever direction you want. Then when you kill an enemy, you get all their stuff, which makes you way stronger going into the late game.
And Fortnite is the best Metroidvania.
I won! Holy shit! Exploring until you're powered up enough to haul ass in the late game is basically a microcosm of Metroid, right? So could I then say that Fortnite is perhaps a Metroid-inspired game? I mean, I could say that, there are parallels there, but I can also step back and recognize that these two games come from very different places. Watching those development interviews and seeing all the creativity and work that went into making this game so unique, I find it all a bit strange. When this game came out, I was obsessed with it, and I watched tons of interviews and videos and fan theories, and online, all everyone was talking about was how cool and unique and innovative the game was. What, only for us to all turn around now and say, well actually, it's more like Super Metroid meets Castlevania, but with a little bit of brain. Like what? Why? It was never intended to have any relationship with that approach to game design. The developers certainly weren't thinking so when they made it. So personally, I won't be calling this a Metroidvania. But I will concede that there is some room to suggest that the open world, the scan visor, space, it could be somewhat comparable to Metroid. But not really.
I want to know what his, like, what is he proposing? What is he proposing? Like, what should we call it? What should we actually call it? Tunic. Let's just go to Tunic.
Now, as for Tunic, sadly I haven't played it, so I'm not qualified to analyze that game just yet. But looking at it, well, looks kind of familiar, I have to say. Yep, something about that looks pretty familiar to me. I think I've seen a thing like that before. It's Zelda.
But, like, we can call all of them Zelda-likes too, because that's how traditional Zelda progression worked as well. Traditional Zelda progression works in the way that, like, you have the entire world, especially like stuff like Link's Awakening and Link to the Past. Those games could be classified as Metroidvanias because the world is open to you, you just don't have the items to progress through the world. So do we just call everything a Zelda-like, since technically Zelda predates all of them? It predates Metroid, it predates Castlevania. Does Zelda predate? I'm pretty sure Zelda predates Castlevania.
Fucking love Zelda. But yeah, this game was inspired by Zelda. Yes, I understand it's a mystery game where your knowledge heavily comes into play, but it's inspired by Zelda. So, while it's too soon for me to say, I don't think I'll call this game a Metroidvania either. While I was watching videos on the topic to do research for my own video, I found this one by Tin Sensei. It's a really cool analysis of all these Metroidvanias, spoiler-free too, I'd highly recommend it. He makes some really interesting points about how replayability is one of the biggest challenges of the Metroidvania genre. Whoa, or so it's called. I don't call it that. I'm not calling it that. That's just what he calls it in the video. Other people call it that, not me. Shit. In the video, you can really see the hoops we have to jump through to make this word work. Because Metroidvania is the worst word we could use to define a lot of these games, advocates of it really have to bust their mental chops to make sense of it at all. Just check out this moment where he talks about Tunic, Fez, and Animal Well.
Just like how Tunic is a Zelda game with a Metroidvania undercurrent, or Fez is a 2D platformer with a Metroidvania undercurrent, Animal Well is a front-loaded Metroidvania with a Metroidvania undercurrent. In fact, Animal Well leans far more heavily into the Vania than the Brainia.
Okay, wait, hold on a second. I feel like he did the best possible job a human being could do to make this word happen, but it still doesn't add up. If Tunic is a Zelda game with a Metroidvania undercurrent, but it's really only using the brain part of this and not Metroid or Castlevania, like where's the Metroid coming from here? Metroidvania is just an evil word trying to take
This person's entire thesis is that Metroidvania isn't close to Metroid enough.
for our minds, but I can't wrap my head around the breakdown. Here's how I would restructure it.
I thought this video would be more
With a knowledge-based
insightful, to be
Fez
honest.
is a 2D platformer with a knowledge-based undercurrent, and Animal Well is a Metroidvania with a knowledge-based undercurrent, and those two things combine to make it a Metroidbrania, the only one on this list. Anyways, that's basically all I've got. I've played most of the games I see being referred to as Metroidbranias, and so far the only one I've played that really actualizes this term correctly is Animal Well. Good job for that, Billy. So now this brings us all to the question, what should we call these games? Like I said, I do agree that we should classify
We
them
can call them knowledge brainias, I guess. There's no Castlevania in there. We could just add a year because it sounds nice. Knowledge brainia. It doesn't sound that good.
them as a new thing. They are mystery adventure games, but I'd still categorize them one degree further because of their unique approach. As mentioned, the thing that separates these games from a traditional mystery adventure game is how heavily the player's knowledge comes into the game design. For example, my friend recommended me this game Pentiment, which is a mystery adventure where you try to solve a series of murders in a German village. It's an incredible game.
It's cool.
Especially for
Pentiment is cool.
narrative-heavy, text-driven adventures. It's a mystery, basically. And like most more traditional mystery adventure games, if I were to start a new game knowing exactly who the killer is and what happened in this village, I would still have to play through the entire game. I could make different choices along the way, but I still have to go through the entire game again. Whereas with Outer Wilds, now that I know the mysteries and secrets of this solar system like the back of my hand, I can boot up the game and beat it in 5 minutes. Same with Aberdeen. I know how everyone on the ship died, so I could speedrun the entire game in just a few minutes. I just have to punch in their names. I've seen a few suggestions from people on the web as to how we should redefine these games. In this Reddit post, somebody suggests calling them Discovery games. Then this commenter argues that Revelation games would be better. In the comments of Tin Sensei's video, there are also quite a few suggestions. This person thought Wilds-like would make more sense, given the fact that Outer
Wilds-like would be such a cool name.
Inspire countless others. I agree with the sentiment, but the problem here is the opposite problem of Metroid Brainia, which is that Wilds-like makes sense, but it sounds like utter dog shit. It just comes off the mouth wrong.
I like it.
The way the L goes to the D,
Wilds-like.
S, and then right back to another L, like Oldsel. Wilds-like, Woldsel. It just doesn't
Now he's
flow. It
just
sounds like
making
shit.
it sound bad.
And come to think of it, it also opens up the same problem of games being needlessly and illogically compared to others. Both The Witness and Obra Dinn predate Outer Wilds, so why would we call them Wilds-likes? I would think that the name we go with should have something to do with knowledge, the brain, and mystery. So, Nala Brainery games. Let's go with that. Although I'm sure you guys can do better in the comments. Whoever comes up with the best one would be pretty cool. Anyways, thank you.
Go give them a follow. Snouch. Give their video a sub and a follow and a like. They bring up a good point. That Metroid Brainia is not a great term, but they don't really bring up any cool terms that could be used. I do think knowledge brainia. I could just like start referring to them as knowledge brainias or Wilds-likes. Wilds-like, it rolls off my tongue pretty nicely. But maybe I just have a better tongue than them. I don't know. I thought the video would be more insightful, to be fair. I don't think I want to get to everything else today, although there's a lot of cool stuff. I'm just gonna note this stuff down for next time. We are gonna jump into some Godot. I'm just gonna update my title and my thumbnail on YouTube before we do that. Doopy doo. Hold on. YouTube. Let me go to edit. Let me go teaching myself Godot. Gonna do that. Also on Twitch. Let's do teaching myself Godot. Teaching myself Godot. Godot. Godot is what I spelled it as. Godot. It is September, by the way. We'll change it up on YouTube, on Twitch, and then I also need to change my thumbnail on YouTube. Godot. Damn, when you Google search Godot, like the images that come up are not what I expected. Hold on. Doopy doo. Open. Where's my thumbnails folder? Content, thumbnails. That's not what I want to open. Hold on. Gonna have to do a little bit of trickery here. I remember saving the PNG. Did I not save the PNG? Where's the PNG? Where's the PNG that was supposed to be saved? I'm pretty sure I saved, not the PNG, sorry, the PSD. Did I not save it? I'm pretty sure I did. But where did I save it? Oh, I guess not. I guess I'll just make freaking. I'll just make a random image, the thumbnail now then on YouTube, because I don't have the PSD apparently. Okay, teaching myself Godot. Let's do this. Let's get in there. Let's do this. Let's launch Godot. Go to home. Go to Godot. I need to give you guys an update of what I did while we were away, because I need to figure some things out. Also, I got some advice earlier about stuff I need to do. But first, I also kind of need to go pee. So I am gonna go pee, and I will leave you guys with an ad break as I do that. So BRB. Oh, I should play some music as well while that's happening. Hold on. Glitch X City. So that people on YouTube that don't have ads can at least get some music while I'm away, if it loads up. There we go. Is it too loud? It's not loud. Okay, BRB. I'm muted. I put on a hoodie because I don't know. Well, one, I'm cold, but two, coding feels nice in a hoodie. Okay, so what is going on is that I tried to do some trickery, some tomfoolery. Basically, we still have this grid that's being generated, and I can turn these on. What I'm trying to figure out, based on the rules of a Conway's Game of Life, essentially. Let's open that up. Conway's Game of Life. So we can go through the Wikipedia. Based on the rules of Conway's Game of Life, what I essentially need to do is any life cell with fewer than 2 live neighbors dies. Any life cell with 2 or 3 live neighbors lives on to the next generation. Any life cell with more than 3 live neighbors dies as if by overpopulation. Any dead cell with exactly 3. I need to figure out the number of neighbors. If the number of neighbors is 2, if the number of neighbors is 3, or if the number of neighbors is less than 2 or more than 3. Those are the 3 things that I need to figure out for every single square. I'm trying to do it in a way that's both efficient and that can be, you know, easily done. The most inefficient way to do it, which is probably the way I should proceed initially, is because I have is the way that I'm just gonna describe right now. So anytime, and I started to do stuff like validate cell, where I was gonna get the X and Y position of a cell and then, you know, look at the cells around it and see if they are enabled or not enabled. For that, I need access to this is enabled variable inside the square.gd file, inside the square script, which is inside a different scene, essentially, from the game scene, from the game manager scene. So I need access to that is enabled thing, no matter what way I do it. Another thing that I was thinking is maybe keeping track of whether they are enabled or not enabled. That's why I created a dictionary here to essentially basically store the key being the coordinate of that square, and then the value in that dictionary being the current state. And so whenever the state would update for this particular square, it can emit its coordinates. Why am I burpy? Now, I haven't eaten or anything, I'm just getting burpy now. It can emit its coordinates, and then it can emit its is enabled state, essentially, if that's set to true or if that's set to false. Then yeah, it can be updated here. So we have ways of storing that. The only thing is, how do I sort of get access to this? Because emitting this signal doesn't do anything because we don't really have a place to receive this signal. What I was trying to do was create a sort of reference to the game manager and then connect that signal, this commented out code right here, which, should I zoom in? Can you guys see it correctly, like the code? Should I zoom in? 'Cause I don't know if I should zoom in. I should also probably put myself down here. I think for Godot, I should probably be down here. I'm gonna be behind the chat when the chat pops up, but that's fine because it's gonna be in front of me. But yeah, that's where I'm stuck currently, because that doesn't do anything, essentially. What I want to look up probably is how to do an observer pattern in Godot, and then I was also recommended looking into global auto load scripts. So here, project settings globals is what I was told would be here somewhere. I could probably just scroll up and see globals and singletons. You can just put a script in there. Hold up, easiest way. Project settings, there's a globals tab. there is a, okay, there's a globals tab. There you can just put a script in there. You can just call it global, default to global. Then you can just be like global.enemy underscore died or whatever. But I would need to put every single, see, if I did that, I would need to put every single square inside that global thing. Now we could make it so that the freaking, what do you call it, the dictionary that is holding all the squares is the global, right? We can do that. So let's say, can I just create a script? Can I just go like, hold on, create new script. If I create a script like that, does anything ever have access to it? Like, what has access to it? Okay, hold on. If I do that, right? If I do globals.gd, we're gonna create globals.gd, but also maybe what we're gonna do is look up how to do observer patterns in Godot as well. YouTube. Observer pattern between scenes, Godot, or just like how to pass information from one scene to another. Godot signals, maybe that's what I Google, how to pass information from one scene to another. Godot, not Unity, Godot. How to pass data between scenes in Godot. It's 15 minutes long. Let's see. It's from 2021 as well.
In this video, we are going to finish the series of switching scenes that we've been doing in the last two videos by talking about how to send data from one scene to another. And so here you'll see I've added this clicks label and this button, and if I click it, this counter will increment by 1. Now, if I change scenes to our desert scene, you'll see that the clicks persist. So we're sending the data from our clicks in one scene to the other. And if I continue clicking, so we're at 14 and I change the scene again, we continue to persist and transfer that data to new scenes. Let's get started. So the first thing that we want to do is actually add some piece of data that we can pass between each of our scenes. Or make a button that increments a counter. The new clicks and press function will default.
Okay, so you have,
it'll be an integer.
Yeah.
Clicks. Well, actually, let's make another function. We'll say like increment click. We'll say plugin. Set integer, we can give that a type, new label 2, click, I'll just make it right up here, we'll say function, set equals, to say label. So if I go into our code here, we can change this to be, this is going to, okay, so that's simple, and oh, we need to wrap this in a string call to convert from integer to string. And this button, oh, and whoops, we had this disabled by default on our previous video, so we'll need to make sure that's enabled too. So if you're having that problem, just make sure. We did this in a previous video, but we'll go to our desert, the click label and the click button. Perfect. Let me just move these up so the scene tree looks the same. And again, we're going to need to make sure we connect our click button here, because when we merge it over, it won't be connected by default. So we'll just double click pressed and we can just hit connect. The default value will be perfect and it'll connect right into our same function that we're using for the grass level. So now again, if I run our scene switcher scene, I can click a few times, but when I change levels, we are not going to have those clicks persisted because we're not saving them. So how do we pass this data in between scenes? Well, there's a couple ways to do it. One way to do it that's quite common is to use what's called a singleton. A singleton is a node or a script or an object that lives, and there's only one of its kind, there's only one instance of it, and it usually lives or exists at the top of your tree or as a global object that any tree can access, or any object, node, or scene can access. And so what we would do is we make the singleton, and Godot, they're auto loads is what they're called, or that's how you create an object that loads in at a global level for your whole game. And so we would create an auto load script, and then we would have our clicks variable live there. And so whenever we increment it or hit the click button, we would increment
okay, that's what I was told to do.
in our global script, in our auto load. Now, that's an okay solution, but if you're doing that for every piece of data in your game, it's going to be really cumbersome. Every object in your game is going to have access to all of your data, which you definitely don't want. That's kind of dangerous and not very good architecture. Another problem is that it's going to take up more memory than you need. You're going to have access to that everywhere in your game, when at a given time, you're only going to need a subset of all that data. Really, even though there's definitely room for global variables and storing global values in your game, whenever you can store something locally, you want to do it if it makes sense and is easy to do. And it's pretty easy to do for us, so we're going to come up with a way here to actually pass some information in to another scene from our current scene. And in order to do that, we're going to leverage some of the architecture we've already built. And so if you're trying to do this and you haven't followed the previous two videos, that's okay. You'll be able to implement it and make it work in your own level, but the scene switching system that we've built over the last two videos is really going to help do that. Otherwise, you might have to do a little bit of adapting on your own, but you'll still be able to do it no issue. So how can we transfer this data from one scene to another? Well, the way we're going to do it is actually to do it in our handle level change. And so what we're going to do is make a new function here. We're going to say function transfer data between scenes. And we're going to need to pass in two scenes here, the old scene and new scene. I almost typed and there, don't want to do that. So when we do this and we're passing in our old and new scene, here's where we're going to want to transfer all the data from one to another. And now what we're going to do is actually call this new function, this transfer data between scenes here, when we are in our handle level change function. So as soon as we connect our next level and do all this, or as soon as we load in and instance it, then we are going to transfer data between scenes. So what I'm going to do is, after we've connected this here, I'm going to call this function, and we need to pass in two things, our current level and our next level. And so remember, current level will be our old scene, next level will be our new scene. Slightly different naming, but it's the same thing going on. And now within this function, we can handle all of the data transfer from one to another that we need to do. So how can we do this without making a global singleton or an autoload and passing it in that way? Well, the simplest way to do it is actually really, really easy. We can just say new clicks, new scene.clicks, because remember, on our level, clicks is the name of the variable that we made. We can say new scene.clicks equals old scene.clicks. So we're just going to set the
But that still means that clicks needs to exist in both places. I think that the best solution, honestly, that I'm thinking right now in my head is to just add square inside Game Manager. To just add the square theme / node into Game Manager, because Game Manager, then we could, we could just connect the signal.
clicks on our new scene to what our value was on the old scene. And if I run this, you'll see that if I click 3 or 4 times, 6, we'll stop at 6, and I hit change scene, you're going to see two things. One is that our clicks is 0, so that seems incorrect. But if I actually hit click me, it bumps up to 7. And if you remember, we were at 6, this makes sense. So the
making our
value
data.
of our clicks is being transferred correct. How we're doing this here to make it a little bit more robust, so that if eventually we have many or multiple types of data we want to transfer over, not just one variable, we'll be able to do that really easily. So how do we have a little bit more robust of a transfer system that isn't just one value equals another? Well, one thing that we can do is actually in level, we can change it from just being a variable clicks to we can say level parameters. And you can change this name to be whatever you want. Level parameters, I think, just kind of gives it makes it clear that these are the parameters of the level, or this is the data of the level. But really what it's storing is the data inherent to our level that we need to pass into another. And so what we're actually going to do is change this to be a dictionary, not just a value. So now we have a dictionary here, and within it we are going to create a value, and it's going to be clicks. So we'll have a value of clicks, which is just going to be an integer here. And now when we do set clicks, we need to do level parameters dot clicks equals new click amount. And then same thing here, we need to change this to be level parameters dot clicks. And so really what we're doing is we're kind of obfuscating here. We're making this more complicated than it needs to be. So for our simple example, where all we care about is clicks, this is more complex than it needs to be. But what I want to show you is a way that you can create and pass through complex data types or multiple pieces of data if you've got a more complex use case than our game has, which is probably the case. Most games are going to want more information to transfer between scenes than our simple dumb little game here. But just to show you how this works, we're instead going to have a variable called level parameters that's a dictionary. Here for us, it'll only have clicks in here, but you can put as many variables as you want in this dictionary. And so what's going to happen now is we're actually going to say new scene.level parameters equals old scene.level parameters. And okay, so far this is looking exactly the same as it did before, but let's add one more change that's going to make it a little bit more robust. What we're going to have is another function, and we're going to say function load level parameters. And we'll say level parameters. And this is going to be dictionary. And to differentiate this parameter from our actual variable, we'll say new level parameters so that they have
That's cool. What I'm also thinking right now is I created the globals. Well, we'll use globals if we have to, but I'm going to try and avoid globals. I can just, like, I have this get state function, right? Does the get state function just work? But I also need to call disable and enable and call it. Disable and enable needs to be able to call the function there. Yeah, that's the issue we're running into. Otherwise I would need to update it every frame, and keeping track of that every frame is not a good idea. Okay, let's go back to what he was saying. Okay.
different names. And what's going to happen is we're going to say level parameters in this function are equal to new level parameters. So again, very simple. We're just setting them equal to what we're passing in. But then we're going to be able to now within this function do any initialization that we need to. And so what we can do is actually borrow line 31 down here where we're setting the text of our click label. We can now set this so that whenever we load in our level parameters, we do the initialization and do the updating that our level needs to reflect the parameters that have been transferred into it.
Okay, you know what? Let's just throw square into. Let's just throw square inside Game Manager. So Game Manager scene, game scene, is Game Manager not a scene? I thought Game Manager was a scene. Is Game Manager not a scene? What are you? You're just a node. What happens if I throw square inside you? Can I throw square inside you? Yes, square is now a child of game manager, right? So now if I do this state change, I can connect it to game manager. So inside here on square state changed. Yeah, we can just do that. What are the yeah, this is warnings inside from inside square. So yeah, we don't need access to this anymore. So a signal called state change has passes in state and coordinates, and then it emits the signal. When this happens, this can go away. This can go away. And yeah, what are you saying is unused? The perimeter, what? It's not unused. I use the signal. It's giving me warnings for no reason. Okay, so here, whenever the square state changes, what we want to do is we want to call sq underscore dictionary, and we want to go to coordinates. It's not defined in current space. What? Hold on. Okay, Godot signals. Godot custom signals. Godot custom signals. Signals. Doopy doopy doo. Custom signals. Connecting a signal in the editor. Yeah, it's connected. Yeah, that's fine. Where's the custom signals thing? Connecting a signal via code. Complete script. Custom signals, right? So you create a signal called that. To emit a signal, you can do signal, yeah, emit, and then this name of the signal, and then it can pass in signal, old value, new value. It passes that in, but then how do we receive those values is what I'm okay, when we connect it, connecting a signal, not via code, just when we connect it normally. So on button pressed, how do we access these values? Hold up. What the fuck is a variant? Class variant any. A variant class is a class that is designed to store a variety of other types. Dynamic program like PHP Lua like to use them to store variables data on the backend. With these variants, properties are able to change value types freely. Godot tracks all scripting API variants. That's fine. How do I pass these in as not variants though? Not declared in current scope. How do I get access to these values? Does it tell me when I'm connecting? Accessing signal variables. Fucking hell, variables. Godot. How to send a signal with a variable. If signals haven't changed from Godot tree, then it's as simple as emit this, where arg1, arg2 are the variable that you're providing with the signal. For example, emit signal that send 52 cat to any function that is connected to signal name. You can connect, so your node dot connect, yeah. So it's connected. We connected it. Emit signal. Your func is the name of the function implemented in the script of your node. So for example, with your func implemented as follows. I'm so confused. I'm kind of confused. How do you pass a variable from a signal? It connected, right? Or does it not? I mean, I've connected it like this before. So it should be connected. Somebody add me. I should be playing the music, by the way. When I do that, yeah, I clicked connect, so it connects to this script. It connects to that script, and then we should just have access to okay, can I just do like print coordinates? Is it still gonna give me an error? Print variant? I don't know. Print variant coordinates. Like how do I get access to these? It's all I'm trying to figure out. What? Expected closing argument? I'm spelling it incorrectly. I spelled it in. It's a spelling mistake. God damn it. It's a fucking spelling mistake. I spent like 20 minutes on a spelling mistake. I'm dumb. Okay, hold on. Let's get rid of you. And also get rid of you. So now we can see if the signal emits, right? Print coordinate didn't do anything. Why? When I click that, this should call enable, right? Enable sets the sprite to, does this, and then emits the signal changed. And then that should print. I mean, yeah, that should print the state or the coordinate, and it's not printing anything is the thing. On square state changed is not being called. It's just not being called at all. What if I like print here? I should go change the freaking spelling of coordinate, by the way. Coordinates. Yeah, it emits state and coordinates. COO coordinates. Okay, so COO coordinates. COO, yeah. Why is it not doing anything? The signal change it, but never explicitly used in class. It is though, it's right here. Yeah, that's what that is. And that function is called. It's not like the function isn't called. The signal is declared but never explicitly used. The signal is declared but never explicitly used. Somebody opened a bug on this. So it says if I if I use state changed dot emit and then give it is enabled, I guess. But how am I gonna if I do that, does it actually emit and do anything though? So I need it to emit and do things. Yeah, I mean it emits, but it's what does it pass? Can I do state changed dot connect, disconnect, get connections, get name. Okay, what does this do? Returns an array of connections for the signal. Each connection is represented as a dictionary that contains 3 entries. Okay, hold on. Let's see if it's actually even connected though. That should work. I mean, yeah, that's a dictionary. Hold up. What if I do this? Out of bounds can execute on base array. Rip. I mean, something's in there. So the signal callable is a reference to connected callable. Flags as a combination. Returns the object emitting the signal. I'm so confused. I'm so utterly confused. What's going on? Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy, indeed. I need some water, man. Need some water. Oh. We're gonna figure out this signal crap eventually. Yes, I sniffed the glass for pouring water in it because I don't know if it's clean or dirty. It's supposed to be clean, but I don't know if it's clean or dirty. Why does the microphone pick up me swallowing though? It shouldn't, but it does. Right. Okay, so why does emit signal not work is the thing. Just signal and then variable arguments. So like if signal does not exist or parameters are invalid. Signal.emit works. Okay, so if I do variable arguments, emits this signal, all callables connected to the signals will be triggered. This method supports a variable number of arguments, so parameters can be passed as a comma separated list. Okay. So if I do inside this, if I do is enabled, and also a co underscore x and a co underscore y. If I do that, also it's just not giving me the nodes anymore. Let's get rid of this again and let's reconnect it. get rid of that. Right. Here. Yeah, how do I disconnect that? Okay. Disconnect that. Let's reconnect it. So inside game manager, we do this, and then it passes that in. Now, if I do print coordinates, and also print state. Okay. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Literally nothing happens. Why does nothing happen though? We're just gonna print it here just to make sure that this is even. Does it even reach here? It doesn't even reach here. Like it's not even there. Why? State change is emitting, but it's not being received. Damn it. Why? Why is it not being received? I think I know why it's not being received, and I hate that probably because the base square that is like under the game manager scene is what's connected to the game manager script, and so if that base square were to emit it, then it would work. But the problem is these are not that base square. These are not that base square. These are squares that we initialize from the script when the script launches. So how do I dynamically connect them, I guess, is the thing, right? How do I dynamically connect them? Maybe so when we actually initialize them, so this square doesn't need to be here, by the way. Delete node square, yes. Square doesn't need to be here. So when we created the squares, right? For I in range, this thing, and then variable square instantiate, note their thing, and then put it in a dictionary. Then we do add child. So add child adds a child node. Nodes can have any number of children, but every child must have a unique name. Child nodes are automatically deleted when the parent node is deleted. This is a node, right? This is a node, and we add it as a child. So can I do print get children, or just get children? There was a thing here, right? If internal is different than internal mode disable, the child will be added as internal node. These nodes are ignored by methods like get children, unless their parent include internal as true. Okay, if node already has a parent, this method will fail. Okay, let's just hold on. So if I do sq.get parent here, what does get parent do? Returns the node's absolute path. No, get parent returns this node's parent node, or null if the node doesn't have a parent. Okay, let me just do that real quick to make sure that it connects to this as a child, right? If it connects to this as a child, that means that we should be able to subscribe with a connect here. It should have access to that child somehow. Let's do this. Yeah, I mean, game manager is the parent there. So now we just figure out how to connect it via script using signals. How do we connect it via script and then connect it on called when the node enters the scene tree for the first time. This is where we would need to connect the parent game manager to the signal, essentially. So connecting a signal in the editor, we tried that, it doesn't work, but we can connect it via script and then it should work. Connecting a signal via code. It's not visible. Timer.timeout.connect. Wait, so does the timer have a function? Yeah, so var timer is get node timer and then timer.timeout.connect. So we can do it in here. Hold on, we can do it in here. So hold on. SQ dot, what is the signal called? State underscore changed. State underscore changed. Changed dot connect. Does that work? Should that work? Dot connect on timer timeout. So on squared state changed basically. Dot connect on square state change. It's not throwing any errors. It's gonna work. It works. Is it giving the correct coordinate, by the way? I mean, I think it is. I think the x and y are no. Yeah, I think the x and y are reversed. Yeah, x and y are reversed. So instead of ij, it should be ji. Yeah, because I is the column and j is the row. So yeah, it should be this. Okay, so now 0, 0 is true. 0, 1. Why is it being called twice though? So it's called once when I press and once when I let go. I only need it to be called when I let go, actually. I mean, that's fine. We can fix that. Wait, it was correct. I'm dumb. Because yeah, the y value is what's changing there. I'm so dumb. It was correct. Right, because I is the y value. I mean, right now j is the y value. Hold up. Hold up. Hold the phone. I is the y value. J is the x value. So, yeah. We do this. And then we keep that as is. Wait, I'm confusing myself. J is giving us the y value, right? Because J tells us... Huh? Wait, what is it in here? This is what's being passed. So if these are switched... Okay, what am I getting right now? Getting 0, 1. Yeah, so J is the y value. Should be I, J. It's correct. J is the y value. I had it fine. 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3. And it should be 1, 3, 2 3 4 3. I'm just gonna X and Y basically. Although that should be the J value. Like the one on this side should be the J value, but I don't, maybe I'm passing them wrong. Am I passing them wrong? No, I'm passing co-X and co-Y, so I am passing them correctly. Okay, whatever. I'm gonna probably turn this into one function called toggle instead of you know, two functions. But anyways, we need if input mouse left. We need it to be on mouse like when I let go of the mouse rather than when I press it and let go of the mouse. So right now it's launching it on both and I don't want that. So how do I do that? How about I just Google it? Godot on mouse left up. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Oh, these are just like global scopes. That's not what I wanted. Using input events. Oh, can I just do and pressed? And pressed? No, and event dot button index dot pressed. Can I do that? That only goes on pressed. Non-existent function pressed in base int. Oh, I mean it's a variable. Okay, that's still not a thing. It's a bool. But it's an input event bool. I mean, we got mouse button index from that. Input event mouse button is the class. Input if event is input event mouse button, right? So input it's so can we just do event.pressed and event.pressed? And now it only gets called when I press. Simple, easy, lovely. Yeah, it's only getting called once now. Great. Also calls the here, which I don't need anymore, so I can just go get rid of that. How do I close all of you guys out? How do I close these out? Just close docs. Yes. Okay, get rid of the here. It's so cold in the room at this point. I should turn the AC up now. Hold on. I'll just turn it off. It's bumped into my freaking thing. Hold on. Right. I'll just turn it off. You know what? I put it on like smart mode, but yeah. Oh, I closed my chat for that. Whoops. Sorry. Sorry. Okay, great. We have access to the signal and we didn't need to use global variables because it was right here all along. I've been here the whole time because all we needed to do was this, and I was too much of a dum-dum to figure that out. Great, so what we need to do now is we need to get XQ dictionary, and inside the coordinates we need to put state. It is declared in. Guys, name your variables things you can spell. Name your variables things you can spell. Because otherwise you keep misspelling it and it keeps telling you it doesn't exist when it does exist. Sad. Okay, so here, we don't need this anymore. So now, I can validate a cell because I can get its neighbors and just look up its coordinates. I'm gonna need a timeout function as well because I want to call it every second is when I want to call validate cell, basically. Well, right now we can just call it in inside process, but we'll probably want to call it every second, and we'll probably want to tie it to like a pause and play thing eventually as well. But yeah, right now we can just call it, just to test it out, we can call it inside process. I'm still confused on the I and J values that I was getting. Because, hold on, because, yeah, no, okay, it's fine now. It's fine now. Was it fine before? I don't know. So yeah, I should be the group, the you know, a cross value, X value, and J would be the Y value. Yeah. Even though it shouldn't be like that, because J is what defines the column, and I is what defines the row. So I would be the Y value, basically. I should, let me change this. Let me change the number of rows and see if that's what's happening. Okay, so we should have 5 rows. We should have 5 rows and 10 columns, but instead we have 10 rows and 5 columns. So yeah, it's just the way it's called is different. It's just the way it's called is different, right? Yeah, so if we just switch this around to be columns and rows and rows, and then now this would be the opposite, Right, and now this would be the opposite. Yeah, so 0 1 1 0 1 1. So 0 0 0 0 1 1 0 and 1 1. It's right there. Great. No more confusing. It's no longer confusing. Ooh, right. Okay, we'll go back to 10 by 10, by the way. We'll go back to 10 by 10. Great. Okay, so it gets the state and it puts the state there. And then now, if we want to validate a cell, what we need to get is we need to get the cell. We need to get like the 8 cells surrounding it, essentially. I'm gonna do it first for a cell that has 8 cells around it, and then we can do the edge cases. So I just pass in an X and a Y value, basically. Right, I can just pass in an X and a Y value for validate cell, right? And then what you can do is we can do xq underscore dictionary, and then in there we can throw in X and Y. Right, what happens if I just do this? Does that work? Or do we need to do variable cell chords equals X comma Y? Do we do this? And so now in here we can do cell chords, right? And then inside here, inside process, let's do validate cell, and pass in 0 1, 0 comma 1. Right, we'll pass in 0 comma 1, which should be the second cell of the first row. It goes true, and it starts with false, and then it goes true. Great. We should also make it so that we have like instead of enable, we have toggle. So func toggle state, I guess. Yeah, toggle state. Right, and then that is gonna be, need an if sprite 2D, sprite underscore 2D dot texture equals grid blue. We should make it the other one. Copy, we should make it grid empty is what it's called, right? Grid empty. Else we do the opposite thing and we make it grid blue. I think a better way would be if is enabled, we make it grid blue. And also, wait, no, if is enabled, we make it grid empty. Yeah, because we're toggling it off, sorry. And is enabled equals not is enabled, basically. Else we make it grid blue. And this code should actually just be down here. It would be called regardless. Right. Yeah. So if is enabled. God damn it, all these freaking bots. All of the bots. To ban 2 of them today. Right. So if it is enabled, it becomes empty. If it's not enabled, then it becomes blue, and it becomes enabled. We're basically switching it up, right? And then we can call toggle state here, toggle underscore state here, and now we can just emit state changed here. Just emit state changed here, and then you guys don't need to exist. What is this? Oh, that's cool that you can do that. Just close these. Right. I mean, you can do that in most IDs, to be fair. So now, you can do this, but it's not emitting the signal. Doesn't seem to be emitting the signal. Right, it should have gone true, true. Is enabled equals... Hold up. So we would probably have to do is enabled equals false, and then is enabled equals true. True. I don't know why the other thing didn't work. So now, oh sorry, it's this one that it probably did work. I was dumb. Hold on. Yeah, I'm dumb. It's just this cell that I'm... Yeah, there we go. Okay. It's just that cell. Great. That works. Okay, perfect. I need to pee. I'm gonna BRB. Hope y'all keep enjoying the music. Okay, we back. We back. Oh, alright. I'm probably not gonna stream for too much longer. I'm probably gonna go for like 45 more minutes, which is almost an hour, so it is pretty long time. But yeah, that's gonna be 3 p.m. for me. It's gonna be 3 a.m. for those in the PST region. And yeah. That should be pretty late, honestly. It's gonna be like, it's still mid-afternoon for me, but I have other work things to do after this as well. All right. This is such messy code, but it's fine. I mean, it's not messy. It's doing a lot. Because we create a square, we instantiate it, we make sure the square knows its own coordinates. Then we also keep track of those coordinates in a dictionary, and lastly we add the square as a child, and we connect to its state changed function, and then we change its position to where it needs to be on the screen, and then we append it. Wait, what's SQ? Squares. Oh, that's the array of squares. Yeah, I don't need that one. We don't need that anymore. Yeah, because we have a dictionary now. We're using more advanced data types. Is it data type? Is a dictionary a data type? Would you call it a data type? I don't know. It's data storage. What are they called? They're not. Are they called data? I know an int is a data type. Anyways, yeah. And then we can just track its state there. Okay, so right now this just prints the cell coordinates, which, to be fair, we do need to know that as well. For a cell, we do need to know that if a cell is alive, we need to check if it is gonna be alive in the next step. So we should really only be validating cells that are alive, because we don't need to validate a cell that is not alive, right? But at the same time, no, we have to do it for all of them, because a cell that is not alive can come to life if it has the correct number of neighbors. Yeah, a cell that is not alive can come to life if it has, if it has the correct number of neighbors. So we kind of have to do it for every cell every time, which is sad. I wonder how they do it, like in an infinite grid. Then I would have to look it up. I mean, right now I'm just gonna do it, but I do want to look it up eventually, how people do it for like an infinite grid, because you can't, on an infinite grid, you can't just do it for every cell, every frame. It's gonna destroy your CPU. Anyways, okay, so what we probably do is we create a variable called var is alive, and that's gonna be sq dictionary, and then cell underscore chords, and then we gotta check define variables for 8 neighboring cells, right? Define variables for 8 neighboring cells. So variable basically we have a top left, a top middle, and a top right. So we have a top left, a top middle, and a top right. Then we have a variable. Can you do this in Godot, by the way? Top left would be y minus 1, x minus 1, right? Basically it would be x minus 1, y minus 1. Top middle would be it would just be y minus 1, so it would be x y minus 1. Top right would be x plus 1 and y, right? X plus 1 and y minus 1 still, y minus 1 still, right? We would have a left and a right, which would be, okay, you can't define variables this way in Godot, is what I'm learning. So we have to define them all in a separate line. Left would just be x minus 1, same y, right? And then right, can you define them on a singular line though? Variable right, no. Yeah, you can't define that. It's Pythonic behavior is what it is. Although in Python you can do the comma definition thing that I was doing. That's why I thought you could do it here too, but I guess not. Okay, right would be x plus 1 and y, and then we would have variable bottom left. You'd basically have bottom left, bottom middle, and bottom right, which would just be these, except it would be pluses instead of minuses. So bottom left would be x minus 1, y plus 1. Right, so bottom left, bottom middle, bottom right. So bottom left, okay, spelling is an issue for me. Same x but y plus 1. And then bottom right would be x plus 1, y plus 1. Yeah, x plus 1, y plus 1. Great. So now that we have that, what we can do is we can validate the cell web. That should be a better way of doing this. I mean, there would be a better way of doing this. I'm just like doing this unoptimized for the first part. So it's alive. And then we should do variable neighbor count, right? Neighbor count. There's gonna be so many if statements here. Could you use could use vector math? Maybe easier to read. I mean, right now it's just I'm just trying to do it like just do it. Also, I did not know Godot had vectors, to be fair. Godot vectors. Also, hey, Adil. I mean, they do have, sorry, yeah, vector 2s are a thing in Godot. Yeah, right. Vector 2s are a thing. I could have used vector 2s, you're right. I could have used vector 2s, considering I did use vector 2s here. Like right here, that's one of the first things I learned to do. I'm dumb. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say, I'm dumb. Sorry, whoops. I mean, technically, I'm using this array as a vector. Basically, it's the same thing. Whatever. Right. So neighbor count is something we need to figure out, right? Neighbor count is something. It's gonna be so many if statements, basically. Cause I need to like essentially just like run through this with all of these. That's why I wish these were like a Can I add them all to freaking... Hold up. Variable checks. Just to make it easy for me. I'm gonna put them all in a freaking array for now. This is not how I want to do it eventually, just because there's gonna be edge cases, like literally edge cases, because like the squares on the edges are gonna need separate checks because they don't have, like if it's on the left edge, it doesn't have something to the left of it if it's on there. So technically I want to do it inside a for loop where it goes to the top left and then just says broop broop broop. That's how I should do it, like inside 2 for loops. But I'm just trying to do it for one cell here and see that it works, and then I can optimize it essentially. But anyways, for check in checks, block after for block. What? Oh. Is that the error? Yeah, that's the error. Dumb Godot. Wait till I finish typing before you start telling me what the errors are. It's not dumb. It's being helpful. So for check in checks, if xq dictionary dot check, all we want to do is neighbor count plus plus, right? Oh, you can't do that in Godot, so plus equals 1. Can I do that? I can do that. Okay, then when I have the neighbor count, so if neighbor count is greater than 1 and neighbor count is less than 4, we actually do nothing because it keeps living. Sorry. What I should do is if neighbor count is less than 2 or neighbor count is greater than 3. That's what we're trying to get, right? Any live cell with fewer than 2 live neighbors dies. Any live cell with more than 3 live neighbors dies. Right? So this, but also and is alive. What we want to do is basically get that square and kill it. That's why I needed a freaking... That's why I needed the squares array, because I want to go kill the squares. And I'm not tracking the squares anyway, apart from the squares array. So I need to go kill the squares. I mean, I need to go unalive the squares. Sorry, YouTube. Forgot I was streaming on YouTube too. I need to go unalive the squares. Not the K word. Unalive. Right. Squares array needs to come back. Okay. Variable squares equals bloop. I mean, I could also just track it in the dictionary as well, but I don't want to. So squares dot append sq. How am I gonna get the... Oh, bubblegum dear. Why are you crying? This is a song from Animal Crossing, by the way. How do I figure out the value of the index of the array? It's basically gonna be, it adds them incrementally, right? So it's gonna be row number times column number, basically, right? Row plus 1 times column number, essentially, because it does the column first. Does the column first, so it would be column number times row number, column plus 1 times row number, essentially. Except yeah, it would be column plus 1 times row number. That would be x plus 1 times y. So we can do x plus 1 times y in squares, dot toggle square, right? Toggle state, and see if that works. So if neighbor count is less than 2 or neighbor count is greater than 3 and the square is alive, we kill the square. And we want to validate cell by passing the coordinates in. Right. So I can just do, yeah, I can just do this here, which is like this thing that I have commented out. I can just put in here. I don't want to do it every frame in the actual game, but for now we can do it every frame just to test it out. No. For squares and squares, we want to call validate cell for the square, and we want to pass in the square underscore cox and right, square co underscore x and co underscore y, right? Square dot co underscore y. Okay, this should work, I think. Invalid key. -1. Oh, okay. Yeah, no. Yeah, because it's gonna call it for all of them. Right. Yeah, we can't do that. So we need to do for square in range, actually. Yeah, for square in range. And then the range would have to be, we're creating a 10 by 10 grid, right? So 0 to 9, and then 1, 1, fucking hell. Matt. Let's draw this out, hold up. I need a better color. So we have give me a line. Right. We want to start. I'm just drawing the edge so that I ignore the edge in my range right now, since I haven't done anything. So the coordinate of this guy is 1, 1, right? The coordinate of this guy is 1, 1, and yeah, the coordinate is 1, 1. So we can do 1 plus 1, 1 plus 1 times 1. That would be 2. So is that how it is though? That's not right then, if that's how it is, because 2, wouldn't 2 be this square? How does this square become 2? How does what? Huh? My math was incorrect. Is what I'm learning. X plus 1 times y isn't what's gonna get me there, because this is technically 0, 1, 2, like 0 through 9, and then 10. This should be 11, right? 1, 1 should be 11 essentially. Yeah. And then 10 by 10, so goes all the way up to friggin' 11. Hold on. It would be the J value. Yeah, it would be the J value. Essentially, it should be the J value. That's not an eraser. What is that? Am I not selected an eraser? The eraser also makes it black. The frick? Why does the eraser make it black? I can just do that. Then fill it in. Okay, whatever. It would be the J value plus the what is this? The size of the number of rows times the I value, basically. So here it would be, so for example, this is 0, 1, right? This is 0, 1, and then the array value of this is 1. So the J value is 1 plus the number of row is actually 0. The number of rows is 10, but the I value is 0, so this becomes 0. Here the J value is still 1. The I value is 1 and the number of rows is 10, so 1 into 10 is 10, 10 plus 1 is 11. Okay, yeah, that's what it is. So it would be y plus number of rows, which is in our case 10. So I'm just gonna type that as 10 right now, but yeah. So here it would be so confused. Y is the J value. Yeah, Y is the J value. I'm pretty sure Y is the J value. No, X is the J value. Let me just replace them with Y and X so that I'm not confused, because I'm using the Y value here. That's the Y value. This one's the Y value. Yeah. That's why I didn't want to use J. Also, I need to ban another dude on Twitch. Why are so many people freaking getting their accounts hacked on Twitch? Can someone explain that? Right, so Y plus 10 into X, basically. Right. That's gonna be that. And then the range is gonna be from 11 all the way to, so basically by the way, this is the range function inclusive. Starts from 0, increases by steps 1, b int, and starts from b, increases from steps 1 and stops before. So yeah, 1 before is where it stops. Okay, it's gonna be 11 to this one, 11 to this one, basically, right? But we need to skip some in the middle too. God damn it. Why don't I just validate a cell that I know I can validate? Stop validating it in a way that's inefficient is harder than validating it in a way that's going to be efficient. So why don't I just validate one cell at a time? Okay, hold up. I'm just gonna do validate 1 1. I'm just gonna do validate 1 1 and just gonna so right now you're alive and you're alive and you're alive. Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening still. You're alive, you're alive, you're alive, you're alive. Nothing's happening. Should I be printing neighbor count? Hold on. Print neighbor count. Okay. Neighbor count is 1. Neighbor count is 2. Neighbor count is 3. Neighbor count is 4. And then squares, so it doesn't work. Does this formula not work? Wait, let me just do this real quick. That should just be toggling at all times. Toggle states. Oh, so I didn't call it as a function. That's why. Okay, great. So okay, it's being called at all times, I think, right now. Why can't I click it? And is alive. So hold up, let me do the other thing so that, or let me just make sure that this square is always alive. Yeah, because is alive needs to be true. Boop de boop de boop. Just make sure it's alive before we even start this. I don't want to do that actually. What is going on? So I can't flip this one. It has neighbor count 3, but it's not. It has neighbor count 4. The neighbor count is fine. Let's just do the other thing. Hold on. Any cell with exactly 3 live neighbors becomes a live cell. So it's just simple. If neighbor count is equal to 3 and not is alive and not is alive, we also want to toggle, right? Great. So now 1 2 3, there we go. Lovely. And then less than 2 it dies, at 3 it, and then at 4 it dies. Okay, I can't touch the cell itself. That's because like it's being worked on at all times, but it can validate itself. At least it can validate itself. Okay, yeah, we gotta basically make the function for edge cases so that we can do that for every cell, and then we have to make it so that the function is only called every second when a certain switch is enabled. instead of at all times ever. But I think that I'll probably do that next time. I feel like that took a lot out of me. I know the code is looking really terrible right now, but I'll probably do that next time and possibly try to fix the code a bit. I could also try and fix the code off screen and just figure out how to do that and then come back to you guys. But yeah, we have Conway's game in the sense that like one cell works. One cell works. Yay. Yeah. Keeps living. Great. Perfect. Let's find someone to raid, because we got a lot of love on Twitch from Jitspo. So we're gonna send the love over to somebody else. If you're on YouTube, I released a YouTube video last night that you might want to go watch. Go and also subscribe and like the stream, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and then go watch the YouTube video I posted and the shorts I've been posting. Been cutting stream content into different things. I'm also going to be posting YouTube videos that are not stream content on YouTube. But yeah, for YouTube, that is an over and out. And if you are watching on YouTube, all I want to say is you are all stars. And with that knowledge, I want you to keep burning bright and show